the full-time mage. The extreme lightning. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 226. Weird Uncle. Just as he was about to take a step and rush to the food street, the phone suddenly rang. Hearing the sound, Tangmao took out his mobile phone, opened it, and found that it was his little Lalita. He was stunned for a moment, and then answered the phone. "Hello, little baby. Why did you think of calling me? Hey, don't be disgusting, okay?" Lingling's disgusted voice came from the other end of the phone. Tangmao was not embarrassed. After all, the little Lalita's poisonous tongue is not a 1-day or 2-day thing. Then he said, "What's the matter with calling me? You returned to China?" Hearing Lingling's words, Tangmao was slightly stunned and said, "How do you know?" "My computer told me." Lingling responded very calmly. Tangmao's mouth twitched slightly. To be honest, he didn't know that he was actually monitored by this little Lalita. Question mark? Then Tangmao asked in surprise, "When did you install the location for me? How come I didn't know?" "Humph, I won't tell you," Lingling said mischievously, and then said, "By the way, didn't you go to participate in the training of the government? Why did you come back suddenly?" Tangmao responded subconsciously, "I missed you. The old man is very bad. I don't believe you." Lingling obviously didn't buy Tangmao's tricks. "Okay, let's not talk about it for now. I'll tell you later," Tangmao said, took a diddy, and hung up the phone. After arriving at the Qingshan hunting house, Tangmao saw a girl with double braids falling on both sides of her cheeks like willow leaves. As soon as he entered the door, she was staring at a pair of watery and electric eyes, but her eyes were a bit old-fashioned and disillusioned. Immediately, Tangmao walked over, and Lingling saw Tangmao coming, and wanted to run away. However, before she ran away, she was hugged by Tangmao. Tangmao rubbed against the growing little Lalita. The feeling was not elastic. Not bad. Not bad. Oh, long time no see. Little cutie, I miss you so much." Lingling looked at Tangmao with disgust. "Shameless. I'm still a child. When you became my partner, you should have been aware of it." Tangmao didn't care. Bo sound, kissed the tender little face and said. It seemed that it was not the first time that Tangmao, this strange uncle, took advantage of her. After wiping it, Lingling broke away from Tangmao's arms. Then, Lingling said contemptuously, "If you are so disgusting, I will tell my sister to eliminate it for you." Tangmao did not forget his business, and then said, "By the way, is your grandfather at home? Why are you looking for my grandfather?" Lingling looked at Tangmao suspiciously, and asked in confusion. Tangmao shrugged and said, "Of course I want to ask your grandfather for help." Tangmao couldn't tell Lingling about the bead now. He seemed to remember that Lingling seemed to have some hatred for the bead. Unfortunately, this damn memory was so vague that he couldn't remember what happened. Lingling took a box of milk from the refrigerator and said, "My grandpa is upstairs." "Oh, do you want to go up together?" "No." Lingling immediately shook her head and refused. Then he said frankly, "When you are not in the magic city, I'll learn some boring and dull knowledge all day long, which makes me tired. My sister threw me to school and let me be with those mentally retarded junior high school students. I skipped classes and came to see you by the way." Tangmao smiled. This was exactly what he wanted. And listening to Lingling's complaints, he could already imagine how Lingling, a super intelligent creature, was fidgeting among those stupid humans. Tangmao was still quite sympathetic. After all, his little Lalita was really too outstanding. But Tangmao came back to his senses immediately. "By the way, little girl, you are already in junior high school, right?" "Yes, but I'll only be there for half a day." Lingling stuck out her little tongue and sucked up the yogurt slurp cleanly without wasting food. Some of it remained on the edge of her pouty little mouth, which was so cute. Even Tangmao herself suspected that she was not really that kind of fetish, right? Lingling didn't pay attention to Tangmao's expression and replied, "Yes, it's the first day of junior high school. By the way, you can upgrade your senior hunter to a hunter master. You have enough points. In this way, we can take big orders in the future." Without the title of Hunter Master, many big bounties are not eligible to be accepted. Customers don't have the time to verify how strong you are, and they don't want to waste time on a little kid who is not even a Hunter Master. Tang Mao nodded and walked upstairs. After arriving upstairs, Tang Mao knocked on the door. He still respected the hidden boss like Bao Lao Tao, especially when you need someone to do something. After Tang Mao knocked on the door a few times, the voice of Old Man Bao came from inside. "Come in, the door is not locked." After entering the room, Tang Mao found that Old Man Bao was reading some information. He didn't know what the information was, but he seemed to be quite serious. After seeing that it was Tang Mao, Old Man Bao was also puzzled. "Why are you back? Didn't you join the government to gain experience? With your strength, you won't be kicked out, right?" Tang Mao shrugged and shook his head. "How is it possible? With my strength, I can beat anyone I catch, right? I came back this time because I need your help." Old Man Bao stopped what he was doing, lit his pipe, and then said, "Is there anything else I can help you with?" Since the first day he met Tang Mao, Old Man Bao felt that this kid was not simple. Facts have proved that this is indeed the case. After performing a demon system alone, his strength is probably on par with his current self, right? After all, even if he faced the mountain corpse, he had no confidence that he could defeat it. Of course, the mountain corpse was injured, but he was also old. This world is so sad. Even if the magic energy of a strong wizard is still lethal once he gets older, every time he uses all his strength, it means that the countdown to life exhaustion is advanced one time. Therefore, when they reach the age of Old Man Bao, they usually seldom take action. The topic has gone too far. Old Man Bao really doesn't understand what Tang Mao has to do that requires his help. Tang Mao directly took out the bead and said, "This is a bead that can bewitch people's hearts. You are knowledgeable, and you should know that it can remove the evil spirits inside, right? I want you to mobilize your interpersonal relationships to help me solve it. I really need it." Chapter 227 Use up all the bullets. Tang Mao got straight to the point and didn't wonder what this thing was. As for how to explain it, naturally, he pushed it directly to the Old Man Wang Mingjian. When Old Man Bao saw this bead, he was stunned. The moment he took it, he felt its difference. He looked at Tang Mao with some surprise and then said, "How did you control its bewitching?" Tang Mao shrugged and said, "Old man, you forgot that I'm the guardian of the totem. I have the blessing of the totem, so it naturally has no effect on me. I need your help, because as long as the evil is eliminated, I can use it to load special energy. In this way, next time I use the demon system, I will not suffer backlash." Old Man Bao took a puff of cigarette and then said, "Boy, this thing is very weird. How can you be sure that I can help you?" Tang Mao curled his lips. "You can solve the problem of my transformation into a demon in the ancient capital. I think this bead should not be a problem with your energy." Is this old man still preparing to pretend to be his grandson? If he didn't know that he had this ability, how could he come to him? Old Man Bao smiled awkwardly and then said, "You know all about this." Tang Mao said again, "You also know that I destroyed Seren's plan in the ancient capital. Although my strength is not weak, it is not a problem to deal with high level mages, but if Seren sends some super level mages to cause trouble, I can't stand it at all. So, you have to help." Old Man Bao glared at Tang Mao with some dissatisfaction. He has never seen such a rogue guy asking for help. However, having said that, Tang Mao has said this, Old Man Bao naturally can't sit idly by. Old Man Bao nodded and said, "Okay, I will try my best to find someone to help you." "Thank you, old man." After saying that, Tang Mao turned around and left his room. As for the beads, he naturally left them with him. After going downstairs, Tang Mao took Ling Ling out for a big meal, bought a ticket, and rushed to Hangzhou. Arriving in Hangzhou, Tang Mao summoned his eldest daughter, and after merging, he rushed straight to the coordinates given by Tang Yu. I don't know how anxious this dog is. It would take half an hour to take a car, but with the full speed of the eldest daughter, he arrived at Tang Yu's residence in 15 minutes. He didn't knock on the door, and directly entered the room from the balcony on the second floor using the shadow system. "Tang Yu, who was sitting there looking at impurities, seemed to feel the magical breath of the shadow system. The moment she turned her head, she saw Tang Mao appear behind her. Before she could react, Tang Mao gave her a hug full of longing. This sudden squeeze made Tang Yu's face turn red instantly. "You are already a member of the national government. Why are you still so anxious and hurried? Can't you be more calm?" Tang Yu said shyly. However, when she wanted to say something, she still couldn't say anything. The little snow girl, who consumed a lot of magic energy on the side, saw that her beast father made her spend a lot of magic, but it was just for this? She immediately scolded him with a sound. Unfortunately, Tang Mao had completely ignored her at this time. Zunu felt the disregard from her unscrupulous father, and after looking at the scene in front of her, she had to pout and return to the contract space angrily. Did she seem to notice that her sister was very angry? Yanji, who was about to come out, happened to see her sister coming back. I don't know what the sisters were discussing. Anyway, Yanji wanted to go out again, but found that she had been locked in. Of course, the reason why Yanji stayed in the contract space for so long was because she had also advanced. Now she is already a command level existence. Zuni complained to her unscrupulous father because her father didn't work hard, which caused her to be suppressed in her cultivation. She was about to be caught up by Yanji. After a 2-hour physical work, Tang Mao was contented to chat with Tang Yu. Tang Yu looked at Tang Mao with some worry. "So, as long as the seniors of Kingshan Hunting Institute deal with the evil thoughts of the bead, you will not suffer any backlash next time you use the demon system?" Although the power of the demon system is very strong, Tang Yu was worried when she thought of the terrible price. After all, she didn't want Tang Mao to be harmed in any way. "Well, don't worry, I will be fine. It's just that I miss you very much when I think of being separated from you for such a long time," Tang Mao said, and then stood up again. I don't know how he stood up. Anyway, he stood up. Seeing Tang Mao stand up again, Tang Yu gave him a helpless roll of the eyes. The next day, Tang Mao was sleeping comfortably and suddenly felt his nose was numb. He half closed his eyes and said, "Don't make trouble. I'm going to rest for a while. I haven't felt this comfortable feeling for a long time. Let's go to the lake island to see the big guys, okay? For a while, I need to go to other places to work. When that time comes, there will be a long time before I can go to see the big guys." Tang Yu's hair kept attacking and said softly, "Well, with the long hair of the fragrance constantly waving, Tang Mao had to admit it." After the two returned to the village, they took a boat directly. Just after the two of them arrived, the black snake came out of the seal. Because it smelled the fragrance of the seafood big coffee. The sudden appearance of the black snake made Tang Yu very jealous. Pouted and stared at the black snake and said, "Big guy, you are partial. Every time I come to accompany you, I also bring you delicious food, but you never come out to greet me." The black snake came to see Tang Mao, of course, not only because of the seafood big coffee, but also because it found that its ancestor seemed to have met a new kind of person. Moreover, this fellow actually had some connection with it. Hiss. Hearing Tang Yu's complaint, the black snake spit out its tongue to explain. Tang Yu was not really angry, of course. She was still a little jealous. She had always treated the black snake as an elder, and although the black snake treated her like a family member, she had never felt this kind of treatment. Even if she had felt it, it was with Tang Mao. Tang Mao smiled and said, "You can't blame it. It was attracted by the totem on my body, so it came out so quickly. And, speaking of which, when I was diving 2 this time at sea, I also met its brother, Bazar." Chapter 228 Constellation Scroll. The black snake, who was eating seafood, was stunned after hearing what Tang Mao said, and looked at Tang Mao and the others. Tang Mao paused, thinking that it was interested. However, when he saw the little Yanji who appeared beside him, he understood. This guy was not paying attention to what he said. It was obvious that he saw Yanji coming out and felt that his seafood was going to be divided. He immediately got into it, not caring about the delicious experience. In the blink of an eye, there was no juice left. After seeing the black snake eating the delicious seafood, the little Yanji pouted her little mouth and looked at Tang Mao. Her pitiful appearance seemed to have suffered a lot of grievances, which was really distressing. Not to mention, the little Yanji said that she had suffered a great grievance. She had just woken up and was locked in the contract space. She smelled the delicious seafood and wanted to come out, but was always ignored. After finally coming out, Uncle Snake swallowed the seafood in one gulp. There was no intention to stay. Woohing because she was already in the growth period. She was like a little snow girl, with little arms and legs, plus the little skirt made of special materials on her body. If she didn't get angry, she would be no different from a human. The two little legs ran hard to Tang Yu's arms, and she complained coquettishly. Tang Yu also liked this little girl very much. She hugged Yanji, and looked at Tang Mao and said, "Why did you let her out just now? Why didn't you let Yanji out when we went to eat?" Tang Mao's mouth twitched slightly. This really couldn't be blamed on him. He wanted to let her out, but he forgot. It was only when he got here that he noticed Yanji's protest. Of course, maybe little Yanji also smelled delicious food, so she was so anxious to come out. It was also because of her motivation that Tang Mao noticed it, so he let the little girl out. That's not to forget, and you don't want your daughter to see you rolling your eyes, Tang Mao said with a smirk. Hate when Tang Yu heard Tang Mao say this, a blush appeared on her pretty face. Thinking back to what happened last night, Tang Yu was ashamed and angry. This bastard is simply too much. I begged for mercy, but in the end. At this time, the little snow girl who appeared in Tang Mao's arms at some point was also dissatisfied. The snow girl doesn't like strangers, but Tang Yu, who has seen her mother so many times, won't hide in the contract space all the time. Of course, the most important point is that in the contract space, she can't improve much by practicing boringly. And Yanji, this stinky sister, always runs outside, making her very bored. The most important thing is that she hasn't tried the delicacies of the world for a long time. After the black snake finished eating, it jumped onto Tang Mao's shoulder, looked at the little snow girl spitting out her snake tongue, and said hissing to greet her. However, the snow girl and the little Yanji are sisters, and knowing that the big snake uncle ate the food alone, they also expressed their unhappiness. The black snake chose to ignore it directly. After all, these two little girls live a happier life than him. As long as he is alone with Tang Mao, what delicious food can he not eat? Thinking about himself, the things that can satisfy his cravings are almost all what Tang Mao brings. So he has no consciousness of sharing this piece. Tang Mao did not intervene in their war at all. Looking at Tang Yu, he said, "Yu, when we are old, how about we take our two daughters to accompany the big snake and retreat here?" Tang Yu also likes this kind of life in front of her. If she is not still young, she knows that Tang Mao's future will definitely not be just like this. She really has a feeling of wanting to stay here and not care about the world. Tang Mao actually just said that. Who would have thought that Tang Yu really looked forward to it? For a while, he was full of wonders. You know, he has been here for more than 10 years. Although this small village is quiet and peaceful, the bright lights and feasting in the big city are the life he likes. Fortunately, Tang Yu shook her head. It's too early to say these things, and I believe that with your talent, your future must be limitless. Don't just think about love affairs. Tang Yu's words made him feel relieved, and then Tang Mao changed the subject and said, "By the way, Yu, give me a few high-level magic constellation scrolls to use. This thing is the secret treasure of Olingian Tribunal, not to be passed on to others, and this thing is not suitable for promotion. Magicians should be proficient in all star maps and constellations. Relying on scrolls will instead form bad habits." Hearing this, Tang Yu looked at Tang Mao with a preaching look. "I'm your husband. And, isn't my last name Tang?" Tang Mao said dissatisfiedly. Tang Yu smiled and said, "But you are not a member of the tribunal. I'm a family member of the tribunal." Tang Yu was a little puzzled and said, "Why do you want this? Aren't you already proficient in the speed of depicting the high-level constellations of the thunder, fire, ice, and space systems?" Tang Mao told Tang Yu almost everything about his strength and situation without hiding anything. He also talked about the demon system. Tang Mao was reprimanded because of the demon system. Tang Mao said again, "My shadow system is about to be promoted to a higher level. You know, Ziohead's strength cannot be fully exerted because of the asymmetry of the place every time he fights. Once my shadow system breaks through the high level, I can use high level field skills, then my combat effectiveness will be improved. Speaking of which, he did not change the topic casually. Now he really needs some constellation scrolls. After all, there are too many systems to practice, and the speed of controlling the stars is also very rare. Therefore, Tang Mao would think of getting a few constellation scrolls to use. Tang Yu thought about it. Speaking of which, Tang Mao is already very remarkable. There are a total of 8 systems, although the demon system does not need to be taken care of, but there are still 7 systems to practice. Now of the 7 systems, he has promoted 5 of them to a higher level. At his age, Tang Mao is really a demon to be able to do this. Tang Yu took out 5 scrolls and handed them to Tang Mao, saying, "Okay, I only have 5 constellation scrolls here. If they are not enough, I can only go back to the Judgment Council to get them for you." Tang Mao shook his head and said, "That's not necessary. You finally have time to rest. Why waste it on this kind of thing? Besides, these 5 are enough for me." Tang Yu asked again, "When will you return to the Guofu team to participate in the training?" After a while, when they arrive at the next training ground. Chapter 229. Going to the burning plain. Tang Yu looked at the little Yanji in her arms, thought for a moment and said, "How about we go out for a walk?" "Ah, where to?" Tang Mao paused. To be honest, he really didn't mean to go out for a walk. Isn't it nice to be at home without shame? Tang Yu held Yanji and rubbed her chubby little face. She said with a maternal instinct, "Let's go to Danhuang to see the guardian of little Yanji. If it weren't for her protection, there wouldn't be this little cutie there." Tang Mao thought about it and then said, "Okay, but I'm not sure if she's still there. Didn't you say last time that little Yanji's mother has gotten used to a certain place? If she's not there, where will she go?" The great mother who protected Yanji didn't die because of Tang Mao's intervention. But she is no longer a human being after all. Moreover, she has lived in Zuoyuan for so long, so it makes sense. If she's not there, where can she go? Okay, then let's go. Looking at Yanji, Tang Mao nodded. Seeing that Tang Mao agreed, Tang Yu smiled and said to Yanji in her arms, "Let's go see the place where you were born, okay?" Little Yanji looked at Tang Yu in confusion, obviously not understanding what this meant. After all, she always thought that she was born by Tang Mao. After looking at Tang Yu in confusion, little Yanji turned to look at Tang Mao. Tang Mao, who was in tune with her, was confused. He really couldn't explain this. After all, Yanji and Zunu were different. When Zunu was found by him, she had already left her childhood. When Zunu in his arms heard that they were going to that hot place again, she looked like she was not interested and didn't want to go. Compared with Zoyan, she still liked the place where she was born. Seeing Zunu's displeasure, Tang Mao rubbed her little head and said, "Can I take you back to Xianshan in the future?" Anyway, he was going to take the little white tiger out to mix with him later, so it was not impossible to take the little Zunu to worship the old Zunu at that time. After hearing what Tang Mao said, the snow girl was very happy and she took the initiative to rub Tang Mao's cheek. "You know, this arrogant girl is very opposed to this kind of behavior. You are really realistic," Tang Mao complained while looking at the snow girl holding her face on her shoulder. The snow girl didn't care, even the fact that this unscrupulous father stuffed her back into the contract space last night. She didn't care anymore. Obviously, the little girl has wanted to go to Xianshan for a long time. Hiss the black snake on the shoulder heard that the two were leaving. He immediately said that he wanted to go too. Of course, the big snake said that he wanted to go to Zoyan with them. Staying in this sealed place every day, the big snake was almost pitiful. While spitting out the snake tongue, it was like the snow girl trying to rub Tang Mao in a realistic way. However, before it came over, it was pushed away by Tang Mao with disgust. Speaking of it, they have slept together for so many years, but it was suddenly disliked, and the big snake was full of grievances. Tang Yu looked at the pitiful black snake and explained, "Big guy, we are going to the burning land. If we take you with us, it is likely to cause a war." After all, it is a monarch level existence. Although the black snake is very powerful, the demon tribes living there are not idle. Once an unnecessary war is triggered, it will not be easy to get away with the big guy. Hiss. Although the big snake also wanted to go, but Tang Yu said so, it had to leave Tang Mao's shoulder pitifully and return to the sealed lake. Looking at the big snake's appearance, Tang Yu felt a little bit reluctant. At this time, Tang Mao looked at the black snake and said, "Okay, don't pretend to be a cow. I'll bring you delicious food when I come back." Hiss. The black snake, who looked very disappointed just now, instantly became energetic and turned his head to look over. Tang Yu was about to speak, but before he could say anything, he was stunned. After all, didn't he look very disappointed just now? How come nothing happened suddenly? Tang Mao smiled. He knew the snake very well. The two of them left as soon as they said they would. After feeding the snake, they booked a flight. When they reached a place deeper in the boundary line, although there were dangers everywhere, with the strength of Tang Mao and Tang Yu, there was nothing that could stop them. On a warrior level armored rhinoceros, Tang Yu looked around and said, "Be careful, something seems to be wrong nearby." As a member of the Inquisition, Tang Yu naturally participated in many battles, and he still had the awareness of danger. At this time, a roaring wind with wild sand surged between the two sand dunes. Tang Mao didn't care at all. After all, they were both high-level mages, and the demon that came here was just a warrior level. It was a sand-roaring tiger. Its eyes, which were wide open and radiating green light, could be seen from a long distance, and the hazy flying yellow sand could not cover its fierce light. It's a war general. At this moment, Tang Mao had already made a move. He pointed his finger high in the sky and a bolt of lightning descended. The Shazaohu that had just appeared was directly struck to the ground. Although Tang Yu knew that Tang Mao's strength had greatly increased, she really didn't expect that Tang Mao could kill a war general level demon with just a mid-level magic. Moreover, this was a thought star map. Regarding Tang Yu's surprised look, Tang Mao said very proudly, "It's just a war general level demon. It's nothing big." In fact, Tang Mao was able to get rid of the Shazaohu in one blow, not because of his powerful magic power, but also because Tang Mao and Jiang Yu learned a lot of demon knowledge during his training in the government. Tang Mao also heard some of the demons and weaknesses. Among these, this included the Shazaohu. After seeing Tang Mao suddenly not knowing his last name, Tang Yu laughed and scolded, "I praised you, but you don't know your last name? Tell me, how did you do it?" This Shazaohu is also extremely powerful among the war general level demons. Tang Yu was really curious. Then, Tang Mao told Tang Yu what Jiang Yu had told him. "That's great. You know how to study now." Tang Yu smiled. This kind of thing was obviously very rare. Along the way, in addition to the sand tiger, they encountered two more monsters, but they were easily dealt with. The others were not dangerous. The two rode on the big rhinoceros and gradually arrived at the area where the sand river was located. After arriving at the long dried sand river area, Tang Mao summoned a flying winged magic eagle from the dimensional space, which was also at the level of a general. After reaching the higher level of the summoning system, Tang Mao did not get a large number of tiger cubs. After all, tigers are not social monsters. Chapter 230, Fire that is useful to mature Yanji. Zhao Hei encountered this little magic eagle by chance. Knowing that Tang Mao loved to find a way to get around, and that the little magic eagle was injured at that time, Zhao Hei subdued it. Tang Mao only found out a few days ago. Tang Mao happened to have the spirit of a general level magic eagle, so he gave it to it. Tang Yu looked at the magic eagle under her feet, and couldn't help asking, "When did you get a flying contract beast?" Not long ago, Zhao Hei was dissatisfied with the way to get around, so he occupied a hilltop and found it for me. Now it's contracted by me. Tang Mao stroked the magic eagle's head and responded to Tang Yu. In this long Shuang river, there are a kind of horrifying creatures. They are the white sand demon soldiers. Standing in the sky of the magic eagle, looking down, it is still a piece of dry land that is sinking down. Tang Yu suddenly roared, "You have a flying contract beast, why didn't you summon it earlier?" Tang Mao was stunned. He had been thinking about waiting here to show it to Tang Yu, but the previous things were really ignored. Now think about it, what Tang Yu said is not wrong. If they had summoned it earlier, they would have arrived by now. After arriving at the northern corner of Zoylan, the two could feel that this land had suddenly become much quieter, and there were no more demons wandering around. The scorching sun was high in the sky, right in the center of the northern corner of Zoylan, which was like a brazier. The only mountain standing in the northern corner of Zoylan was the Huazu mountain, which was closest to the sun. There were almost no living creatures on the top of the mountain. Some plants that needed to be watered by the flames grew vigorously, covering the land on the flat-topped mountain in patches. They were fiery red, like a dense blanket of maple leaves, and they were magnificent. When the red leaves fell, they were like a candle flame, slowly falling from the air. If a violent gust of wind swept through here, the air would be embellished by these dancing candle flames, which was extremely beautiful. After arriving at this place, Tang Yu asked Tang Mao to stop here and admire it for a while. They didn't know how big their hearts were to admire the scenery in the place where demons lived. While the two were admiring, a bright red humanoid object was slowly approaching them. It moved in a very strange way, with its toes slightly raised, and its legs kept suspended. It floated over from between several fire cloud trees that were more than 10 meters high like a ghost. After seeing the person coming, Tang Yu paused, as if she had sensed that the other party's aura was relatively strong, so she was so alert. And the little Yanji in her arms seemed to feel the familiar aura of the fire witch, and she cried happily. Tang Mao held Tang Yu's waist and said, "Yu, don't be afraid, this is the fire witch guarding the little Yanji." Ah. Tang Yu paused, and after seeing that the little Yanji in her arms was very happy, she understood. At the same time, the little snow girl also floated out. The fire witch also came to their side at this time, and the magic eagle under their feet was already trembling. If it weren't for the comfort of Tang Mao, the snow girl, and the Yanji, it would have wanted to run back to the dimensional space. After all, the one in front of it was a demon of the monarch level. Ying. The flame witch seemed to be asking Tang Mao why they came here again. Tang Mao hugged little Yanji and said, "We brought little Yanji to see you." The flame witch looked at Yanji, who had been promoted to the commander level, and expressed her gratitude happily. At the same time, she was also quite fortunate that her choice was not wrong. After meeting the flame witch, the two of them, along with the two contracted summon beasts and the dimensional summon beasts, were taken to a flat-topped mountain, which was where it lived. After arriving on the road to the flame witch's territory, Tang Mao asked the flame witch when Chenaying left. The flame witch responded to Tang Mao. 1 month after he left, Chenaying also left. After all, mother and daughter are different from humans and demons. She can get used to the life here, but it does not mean that Chenaying can get used to it. It can be said that the flame witch is very satisfied that she can stay with her here for so long. After all, her life was saved by the previous Yanji. Ling. After asking Chenaying, the flame witch suddenly told Tang Mao, "Deep in this burning field, there is a volcano with a very strong fire element. Now Yanji can take her there to comprehend new opportunities." Originally, she was going to let Chenaying tell Tang Mao about this, but now it seems that Chenaying has never seen Tang Mao. Tang Mao paused after hearing this, and then said, "Is there a flame suitable for Yanji to absorb here?" He could understand the words of the flame witch, which was naturally because he had communicated with Yanji more. Even Tang Mao himself did not expect that there was a flame that could breed Yanji here. If Tang Yu had not said to come here to take a look, Tang Mao felt that he might not know this news in his life. Little Yanji already has the heaven and earth tribulation flame, but this does not mean that she cannot absorb other flame powers. Moreover, even if she cannot absorb it, as long as she stays in it for a period of time, the improvement will be extremely great. Tang Yu is not Tang Mao. She was confused when she saw the exchange between Tang Mao and the flame witch. But before she could explain, she heard the flame witch make another ling sound. The flame witch said that the flame element there could make Yanji more powerful, but at the same time, a guardian demon came there a few years ago, and it was a top-level existence among monarchs. Although the flame witch herself was also a monarch, she was not superior to such an opponent, because to put it bluntly, she was not a real Yanji. Her strength was at most at the level of a middle monarch. Therefore, even if there was energy that could be absorbed, the flame witch said that they had no way to absorb it now. Tang Mao's excitement was instantly diluted. It was possible that there was a supreme monarch guarding that place. What was the use of him knowing it? Not to mention him now, even if he turned into a demon, he might not be able to beat him, right? It seemed that she had noticed that Tang Mao was in a bad mood, and the flame witch made another ling sound. She told Tang Mao that the flame there could be absorbed, even when Yanji reached maturity. It seemed that it was the exclusive flame of Yanji clan in the past. Tang Mao was even more curious about this. However, he did not act impulsively and temporarily chose to put this matter aside. He left the little Yanji and the fire witch behind, while Tang Mao took Tang Yu to hunt monsters in the forest below. Chapter 231 Your path is narrow. After being pulled to the forest by Tang Mao, Tang Yu asked, "What did little Yanji's mother tell you?" Tang Mao answered truthfully, "She told me that there is a volcano deep in the burning field, and there seems to be a flame there that is very helpful for Yanji's growth. But I don't know what it is." "Then why don't we take Yanji with us?" Tang Yu asked puzzledly. Tang Mao stopped and shrugged helplessly, then said, "It's not that we don't take her with us, but according to what the flame witch said, a supreme monarch came there a few years ago. It's not a place we can set foot on at all." Supreme monarch. Tang Yu was stunned. It was the first time she heard that there was such a saying among the monarchs, and Tang Mao explained it to her again. Of course, he analyzed it as a person in the future. If it was just a great monarch, the flame witch could not defeat it, but could still run away. If she had no chance to run away, then it must be the supreme monarch. The black snake reached the level of the great monarch, and Tang Yu thought that this was the strongest demon in the world, but she didn't expect that there was a stronger existence above the great monarch. That's a pity. Tang Mao shook his head and said, "That's not the case. Although we can't go there now, according to the flame witch, the flame elemental power there is extremely strong. Even if the little guy reaches maturity, he can absorb it." "Okay." Tang Yu nodded, and didn't think about it anymore. After all, they are not qualified now. Tang Yu said again, "Where are we going? Since we are here, of course we have to hunt some demons. You know, I can collect spirits, and the materials on the demons are all money." Tang Mao responded. Although he gained a lot during his training in R, the cost was also extremely high. The most important thing is that he spent nearly 150 million to pick up girls. With the two treasures of Zio Yanji and Zunu and his consumption of 7 systems, how can he do it without money? Tang Yu asked in confusion, "Are you short of money again?" Apart from the matter of women, he almost didn't hide anything from Tang Yu. "I'm not short of money now, but it's better to be prepared. Besides, I'm also thinking of getting a soul seed for the wind system." "Don't worry about the shadow system, there will always be one. He just doesn't have a suitable soul seed for the wind system now. His wind system is already very strong. If he has a soul seed, his strength will definitely be improved. But the price of the best soul seed is a big loss." Therefore, Tang Mao didn't want to miss out on anything that could make money. Tang Yu nodded, and then said, "I still have 50 million here. Do you want it?" Tang Yu got the reward for arresting some people from the Black Church some time ago. She was originally going to buy some training resources, but now seeing that Tang Mao needed it, she decided to give it to him. Although 50 million is not a lot, it is definitely not a small amount. How could Tang Mao have the face to ask Tang Yu for this money? He immediately shook his head and said, "No, you don't have to worry about my affairs. I'm not bad at making money, but I don't want you to keep trespassing in the demon land like this. I'll be worried about you." Tang Yu looked at Tang Mao with some distress and said. Tang Mao didn't know what to say for a moment. Just as he was reflecting on himself, a whoosh sound suddenly came from behind the two of them. After hearing this, Tang Yu hurriedly said, "Be careful." Tang Mao paused after hearing this. When he came back to his senses, he saw a creature with the long body of a fire-patterned python rushing towards here at a very fast speed. Although its body is very small compared to the snake ancestors of the level of the totem black snake, it is also 15 or 16 meters long. The most amazing thing is that this guy has 3 heads, and its 7-inch part is particularly thick and divided into 3 bodies. The three heads are supported ferociously, showing different colors. The head on the left is dark brown, with skin as hard as armor, thick and heavy. It is simply a rock python head. The head in the middle is fiery red, with eye-catching fire patterns on its scales. The delicate texture inside the fire patterns can be seen clearly. Its eyes are sparkling, and the light it emits makes people panic. The head on the far right is turquoise. This dark turquoise color is obviously caused by the poison. Its fangs are exposed, which is extremely dangerous. Tang Mao immediately hugged Tang Yu, who was about to draw the star map, because he knew that with Tang Yu's speed, it would be too late. Bang! At the moment when Tang Mao hugged Tang Yu, the three-headed python rushed over, but its bloody mouth bit the thick ice that Tang Mao automatically defended. Although the thick ice wall felt a little broken, it only felt a little broken, but did not break. After blocking the attack of the three-headed python, Tang Mao jumped up holding Tang Yu, and the snow girl merged into his body at the same time. After flying in the air with Tang Yu, Tang Mao asked with concern, "Yu, are you okay?" Tang Yu shook her head. Although she had heard of Tang Mao's self-defense function, she didn't expect that this thing was so powerful. It could withstand the attack of a commander-level demon. After making sure that Tang Yu was not hurt, Tang Mao looked at the three-headed python with murderous eyes. This was the first time that he almost hurt his beloved woman because of his loss of consciousness. Although Tang Yu might not be in danger of life, even if she was attacked, for Tang Mao, who was already blaming himself, wouldn't he feel even more guilty? Stupid python, you've narrowed your path. After Tang Mao muttered, a chill of ice appeared in his eyes. The whole person was like a 1,000-year-old ice cube, which instantly lowered the originally hot temperature nearby. Ice vines. Freeze. The three-headed python seemed to have sensed the murderous intent in the cold breath, and was a little scared and wanted to escape, but before it moved, it found that its tail had been frozen? You know, the fire element energy here is the strongest, followed by the earth element, and the other element energies are completely suppressed here. But, the human in front of him used ice magic, and he actually controlled it? Frozen coffin. Tang Mao held Tang Yu in one hand, and drew a star map with the other hand, but his speed was still not slow. Just when the three-headed python broke free from the ice, and wanted to get away from here, an ice coffin fell directly on the python's head. Chapter 232 Ziohen's True Power. Feeling the danger of the ice coffin, the three giant pythons spewed out different elemental powers. Boom. Pa. The ice coffin had just been smashed down, but it was smashed into pieces of ice by the three giant pythons. It was like raindrops all over the sky. The three giant pythons were naturally strong. The reason they wanted to escape was not because they didn't have the strength to fight, but because they didn't like the cold air here. After all, they were used to hot areas. But just when it thought it had resolved the threat of freezing, and was about to slide away, it suddenly discovered that the scattered pieces of ice began to freeze on its huge body. Ice crystal spear. At the same time, Tang Mao put Tang Yu behind him, and drew the star map again. The high-level skills of ice attributes took shape again. A spear full of cold air whoosh sounded, pierced the sky and shot straight at the three giant pythons. The three-headed python, who was still dealing with the ice on his body, wanted to resist, after noticing the spear that was rushing towards him to explode his snake brain. But just as the three-headed python was about to attack, the middle head was directly pierced through. While after one head was pierced through, the snake blood sprayed out like a small fountain hissing roar. After one head was cold, the other two heads roared. Skyflame funeral. Just as the three-headed python was wailing in pain, Tang Yu behind Tang Mao also made a move. She was not as fast as Tang Mao in depicting the constellations, but Tang Mao had already depicted 2 high-level constellations, so she naturally also completed the depiction of the fire constellation. Boom 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 boom. The flames fell down, and Tang Mao was stunned. He looked back at Tang Yu helplessly, but he didn't say anything. The reason why he was a little helpless was that the power of the fire element in the environment here could be enhanced. Although her attack was very damaging, it could not directly give the three-headed python a fatal blow, and it might even run away. However, things have already happened, and he can't always be helpless. He can't scold Tang Yu, right? Dimensional summon. Following Tang Mao's summons, Ziohedi ran out in a flash. After Ziohedi came out, he rushed straight to the three-headed python. Oh. At this time, it was a python with two snake heads. The middle head had been pierced by Tang Mao. The python with two heads left wanted to get rid of Ziohedi, but after Ziohedi bit one head, he kept dodging the attack of its other head. At this time, the Snow Girl and Tang Mao had disintegrated. Purple Sky Domain. Boom boom boom. As soon as the Snow Girl left her body, the ice attribute power on Tang Mao's body dissipated, and the next moment, thunder was everywhere. With the addition of the Snow Girl, the three-headed python had no chance to escape for a while. The most important thing was that Tang Yu's plant control was also occupying its body from time to time. With the cooperation of Tang Yu, the eldest daughter, and Ziohedi, Tang Mao also successfully depicted the Thunder constellation. After Tang Mao successfully depicted the constellation, Ziohedi and the Snow Girl each got rid of the entanglement with the giant python. Zixio. Lightning beam. Swish. This destructive lightning beam was originally aimed at the head on the left, but the giant python also sensed the threat and turned around to hide. Unfortunately, it was a step slower, but the left head was saved. Boom. But the head on the right was directly blown to pieces. In an instant, only the dark brown, thick and heavy rock python skull on the left was left among the three heads. But even the snake brain with great defensive power was extremely distorted at this time. After all, they are all one. Hiss, hiss, hiss. At this moment, the giant python no longer wanted to run, but rushed towards Tang Mao. Telekinesis. The moment it pounced, Tang Mao locked the giant python with the power of space. During this delay, Tang Yu's high-level shadow skills were also released. At the moment, when her shadow domain skills were released, Ziohedi's strength instantly soared. At the moment, when the blackness enveloped this place, Ziohedi disappeared instantly. The next moment, it stepped directly on the body of the giant python with two claws. Boom. After a loud noise, Tang Mao was slightly stunned, and the magic depiction on his hand also stopped. Because, even he could feel that in this dark night, Ziohedi's strength was so terrifying. Even the Snow Girl couldn't compare to it. He knew that Ziohedi's combat power was off the charts in the dark night, but because the shadow system had not broken through the high level, he really didn't know that Ziohedi's strength would double in the dark attribute battle. At this time, Ziohedi pressed its head with one claw, and the other claw was full of dark element. Then, the claw turned into a black mist, and then directly broke the defense, and the hardest head was directly corroded and melted. With one blow, just that one blow, Ziohedi destroyed the last breath of the giant python. Tang Yu looked incredible, and so did Tang Mao. He had always thought that Ziohedi might be the strongest after strengthening in the dark night. But he didn't expect that with the dark energy, it would explode like this. Its strength has almost reached the level of a great commander! Exclamation mark. Roar roar roar. As if it was the first time that Ziohedi felt the power of his own strength, he also roared excitedly. After the head was gone, the huge snake body jumped for a few minutes, and finally lay there unable to move at all. And at the moment, when it was cold, a complete spirit floated out. After Tang Mao saw the explosion of the three-headed python, he was also slightly stunned. Fuck you. Then he couldn't help but use civilized language. The three-headed python itself is a rare snake demon. Not to mention the commander and spirit, even the value of the general level is extremely high. I didn't expect that I would explode the commander An. Wow, honey, I got rich. Tang Mao shouted excitedly. Tang Yu also withdrew her high-level shadow domain skills at this time. Looking at the man and the tiger floating there, her mouth twitched slightly. She didn't know what Tang Mao had gained, she just thought that she was so happy because she saw the power of the shadow demon tiger. As soon as she walked to Tang Mao's side, she was hugged. Tang Yu was afraid that Tang Mao would get too excited, so she hurriedly said, "Don't make trouble, it's not safe here." Tang Mao was embarrassed for a while, and then said, "I'm happy, honey, this three-headed python exploded a spirit." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 233 Return to the Magic City. After learning what Tang Mao said, Tang Yu finally understood. Tang Mao was not happy because of Xiao Hen's fighting power. It turned out that he was so happy because this three-headed giant python was in great demand. However, think about it, Tang Mao is just short of money now. And the spirit of this three-headed giant python is also extremely rare. It can be sold for almost 140 million or 150 million in the market, right? Tang Yu paused and then said, "This luck is too good. It's because you are here. You are my lucky goddess." Tang Mao excitedly hugged Tang Yu directly. As for the puzzled thing just now, he just ignored it. Speaking of it, he killed quite a few commanders. However, there are not many explosive goods, especially in the battle in the ancient capital. He didn't know how many commander level undeads he solved. Unexpectedly, the first time he came to hunt monsters with Tang Yu, he directly harvested more than 100 million. Moreover, although the heads of these three-headed giant pythons are all broken, this snake skin can also be sold for more than 1 million. Compared with the spirit, although this 1 million is nothing, it is better to have it than nothing. He is not the kind of person who would look down on 1 million if he could earn 1 billion. Just as Tang Mao and Tang Yu were packing up the materials, the Flame Witch and Little Yanji also rushed over. After the Flame Witch brought Little Yanji here, Little Yanji ran to Tang Mao's side. After a while of crying, Tang Mao rubbed her little head and smiled and replied to the little girl that she was fine. Little Yanji was relieved. When the Flame Witch saw the corpse of the 3 giant pythons, she was also slightly stunned. After all, it was less than a year since he took Yanjin away from here. These 3 giant pythons are no match for her. Before, the Flame Witch was still thinking about how to let Yanji obtain the elemental energy there to enhance her Jiyan, but now it seems that she doesn't need to worry about anything at all. She just needs to wait here with peace of mind. The reason why the Flame Witch didn't want to leave here was, on the one hand, because she was not a human being now, and she was used to it, and on the other hand, because she wanted to wait for an opportunity here, to wait for Yanji to seek an opportunity to increase the power of Jiyan. After packing up, Tang Mao and the others returned to the top of the mountain with the Flame Witch where she lived. The Flame Witch found them some flame fruits. This thing can be regarded as a high-level medicine. It can not only restore physical strength, but also enhance the power of fire attributes. Tang Mao and Tang Yu both have fire attributes, so the food they brought seems a bit redundant. After giving them some fruits, the Flame Witch took Yanji away. Although she did not get all of Yanji's inheritance, she knew more than Yanji, and Yanji has now reached the command level, which is just right for her to comprehend some things that she herself does not know. Of course, Yanji can also discover it through slow exploration. However, it is unknown when that will happen, and there is nothing wrong with free guidance for Tang Mao. Tang Yu looked at the Flame Witch who was guiding Yanji, and said with emotion, "She is really a great mother. Fortunately, you saved her, and saw through the conspiracy of that evil woman." Tang Mao nodded and agreed. In the original book, this Flame Witch did not have to die. However, she was grateful and of course she might have been too deeply influenced by the protagonist's halo, but no matter what the reason was, she gave up her life to make Yanji born. Tang Yu said again, "It's a pity that Yanji was extinct." Tang Mao shook his head and said, "If this kind of dulling of the element of heaven and earth is everywhere, it would not be a good thing for humans. Little Yanji is close to humans. That's just because she was led to Tang Mao's arms by the snow girl when she was born, and they happened to be contracted. But if she was wild, Tang Mao didn't think she would be close to humans. Moreover, the reason why they can be called the dullings of the element between heaven and earth is not because of their rarity. Yanji may not be extinct, but no one knows when the next Yanji will appear. After all, it was born between heaven and earth." In the next few days, in addition to hunting monsters here, Tang Mao and Tang Yu admired the sea of red leaves, and Yanji wholeheartedly accepted the guidance of the Flame Witch. The days were naturally a bit boring, but Tang Mao felt much more comfortable than when he was here with Chelang before. After all, Tang Yu made him feel the passion of this world every day. The Flame Witch who was guiding Yanji expressed her dissatisfaction with this. Although she is now a demon, she still has human thoughts. Tang Mao, this bastard, did not even hide anything from her, which was simply too much. Tang Yu wanted to avoid him a little, and even covered her red lips when she was in high spirits occasionally, but Tang Mao seemed to do it on purpose. Not only did he not let her do what she wanted, but he also output a lot. After coming to Zoyan for a week, Tang Yu felt that she had made up for the amount of the past 6 months. Of course, she was happy, but her waist was also broken. During this week, Yanji also finished her studies. After that, the two of them said goodbye to the Flame Witch and left Zoyan under the leadership of the little demon eagle. Of course, when they arrived in Shay, Tang Mao did not forget to harvest a wave of whites and demon soldiers. This week, she came here to visit the Flame Witch under the pretext of traveling, but in the end, she became a demon hunter. However, Tang Yu was very content. After all, she hadn't been with Tang Mao for such a long time. Including the journey, the two of them had been together for a total of half a month. After sending Tang Yu back to Hangzhou, Tang Mao left Hangzhou and headed back to the Magic City. While sitting on the train, Tang Mao looked at the gains during this period. He had earned nearly 200 million yuan from a trip to Zoyan. With the remaining 100 million yuan, he now had more than 300 million yuan in savings. But if he wanted to buy a better wind attribute soul seed, this amount of money was obviously not enough. However, he was not in a hurry. After all, he had just broken through to the intermediate level of the wind system not long ago. After arriving in the Magic City, Tang Mao returned to the Pearl Academy. Since he was going to practice intermediate magic, the cheating device of the 3-step tower was obviously suitable for him to use. Moreover, with his current strength and the identity of a member of the national government, Tang Mao believed that Dean Zhao would never refuse him. In addition, after seeing Zhao He's strength for the first time, Tang Mao felt that it was necessary to thank Dean Zhao. However, whether he went there to thank him or to practice, only he knew it. Chapter 234 Ding Yumian's Guard. After arriving at the campus, Tang Mao rushed straight to Dean Zhao's residence, but when he passed by the far courtyard, he saw a girl. Is this girl standing there, as if waiting for someone? Looking at her graceful figure, she was like a bright and beautiful white rose, pure and flawless, charming and graceful, with her hair tied high and falling down in front of her chest, still so eye-catching. After seeing the girl in front of him, Tang Mao walked over, stretched out his hand and patted the soft shoulder and said, Ding Yumian. Ding Yumian was also startled by Tang Mao's sudden pat. However, when he turned around and saw that it was Tang Mao, he breathed a sigh of relief. Tang Mao looked at Ding Yumian's reaction and curled his lips and said, I say, are you serious? He really didn't expect that this girl who was not very interested in anything would have such a big reaction. Ding Yumian pouted and said dissatisfiedly, in the whole college, I'm afraid that only a rude guy like you would treat a girl like this. The reason why she was shocked was because she had never been joked like this before. Tang Mao also knew that this girl had a little obstacle in her heart. He was a little inconsiderate about what happened just now. However, he still said stubbornly, how can this be rude? You should thank me. You scared me, and I should thank you. Even Ding Yumian, who was as calm as water, was a little dissatisfied with Tang Mao's statement. She is such a quiet little beauty, and others can't take care of her in time. This guy not only scares himself, but also looks very reasonable when he does something wrong. Brother is letting you feel it. Look at you. You are like a little pitiful. What's the point of youth being lonely because of that little thing? Tang Mao said with a specious argument. Ding Yumian and Tang Mao talked about the past, and after telling someone, she actually felt a lot more relaxed. Before, she thought that she would not be able to accept it if someone else proposed it, but when Tang Mao said it, Ding Yumian found that she did not feel as heartbroken and self-blame as she imagined. After a pause, Ding Yumian said, then I have to thank you, right? However, at this time, she did not think about it carefully, but was very unhappy with what Tang Mao said. You're welcome, we are friends. Tang Mao waved his hand and said generously. He looked at the quiet girl in front of him and said, hey, do you want to feel the taste of love? Ding Yumian did not even think about it and shook her head and refused. No, scumbag. If you don't want it, then don't. But I mean, well, why do you say I'm a scumbag? Tang Mao said with some dissatisfaction. He didn't think that this girl saw through his heart, and Ding Yumian didn't like to go online, so Tang Mao was very puzzled why she said he was a scumbag. Who would believe you? Ding Yumian rolled his eyes at Tang Mao, and then said, then should we go ask Munijio? Tang Mao paused, a little puzzled. What does this have to do with Munijio? Ding Yumian stared at Tang Mao with some dissatisfaction, and said, thanks to a certain bastard, Ming's school bell was picked, and the new school bell fell on my head. Tang Mao was not a fool, and he didn't understand what was said in such an obvious indirect criticism. Wouldn't it be a waste of time? However, he remembered that the last time he chatted with Ding Yumian, she was still a blank slate. How come she has become like this now? Seeing Tang Mao staring at him blankly, Ding Yumian smiled and said, do you feel that I'm not so easy to fool? Tang Mao nodded subconsciously. Seeing Tang Mao nod without disguising, Ding Yumian hummed in dissatisfaction, and then continued, after chatting with you last time, I thought about a lot of things, and became more open-minded. Moreover, when I was free, I learned some things about you, a scumbag. Tang Mao's mouth twitched slightly. Ding Yumian continued, you have been living with Munijio and AI22, and you still want to fool me. Aren't you a scumbag? I think the big pig hoof mentioned on the internet is quite suitable for you. Tang Mao was speechless for a while. Did he help to enlighten her several times? But in the end, this little girl had such a big defense against him. Seeing Tang Mao wondering, Ding Yumian suddenly laughed. What are you laughing at? Ding Yumian's eyes were as bright and clear as autumn water, staring at Tang Mao and said, do you regret enlightening me? No, I was thinking, you have come out, shouldn't you repay me? Tang Mao said with a smirk on his face, looking at Ding Yumian's bulge. After seeing Tang Mao's gaze, Ding Yumian hugged herself with both arms, and then cursed, rogue, don't even think about it. Tang Mao shrugged, and then said seriously, you think wrong. I just want to say that with your strength, it shouldn't be difficult to join the national government team. Why don't you want to join? Ding Yumian is now a high-level mage, and it shouldn't be difficult for her to join the national government. In addition, she has no knot in her heart, so Tang Mao is really puzzled that she is still in school. Seeing that Tang Mao didn't have the squinting expression before, Ding Yumian let down his guard. At the same time, he said with a gloomy look, I don't want to be too dazzling, and the life in Mingsu Academy is very suitable for me. Everyone has their own aspirations. Tang Mao just asked casually, and then said, what are you doing here? I'm waiting for Huang Xingli. Then you continue to wait. I'll go to find Dean Zhao. He didn't know this so-called Huang Xingli, and since there was no chance to scum, there was naturally nothing to say. Okay, goodbye. Watching Tang Mao leave, Ding Yumian's expression changed just now, and now it has returned to its previous calmness. She has not completely come out of the matter, but since she talked to Tang Mao, she has indeed relieved a lot of pressure. The reason why she responded to Tang Mao in that way was that she didn't dare to have too much contact. Originally, he was quite happy to see Ding Yumian. After all, this holy white lotus, he wanted to taint her from the bottom of his heart. Unfortunately, she didn't give him a chance at all. After arriving at Dean Zhao's office, Dean Zhao was depressed when he saw Tang Mao coming. After all, shouldn't he be training in the country of South Korea now? Why did he come to him? He didn't receive any news that Tang Mao was kicked out. After Tang Mao's explanation, Dean Zhao finally understood what was going on. After hearing that Tang Mao was going to the 3-step tower to practice for a period of time, he also agreed very happily. After all, he was still waiting for Tang Mao to become world famous. Chapter 235 Egypt's Provocation. A few days later, at Shanghai Pudong Airport, a group of young men and women with dark skin walked out of the international arrivals. A tall man with a high-nose bridge slowly took off his sunglasses and looked around. I thought we would end up in a backward place with bricks, stone alleys, and wooden houses. It turns out that China also looks very international. At least this airport is not as bad as I imagined. Said raised his lips, revealing a very obvious dimple. A group of female students who had just returned from abroad happened to pass by and took a look at this handsome and evil man who looked like a dark horse prince. They talked excitedly, but no one had the courage to look at him more. They just chatted there. So handsome, with a sculptured face like Louis Koo. I think his eyes are beautiful, such a clean blue color. I have never seen a man with eyes like sapphires. Which country are they from? I don't know. The language they speak is a bit strange. The girls continued to move forward and only dared to look back secretly after they walked away. When they found that the black and handsome man who looked like a prince was also staring at them, they immediately raised their chests and hips, stepped on high heels, and disdained this gaze like proud princesses, and continued to walk towards the airport exit. The girls in this country are so fake and interesting. Said heard what they said. After all, he was a magician and his hearing was several times stronger than that of normal people. Let's go. After getting the seal of the National Pavilion, we have more important things to do here. Another woman with explosive curly hair said. Does anyone know how powerful China is? Myers asked. There is no need to waste too much time on the National Pavilion. You can do your things. I will go to the National Pavilion alone. Said smiled and said. Don't underestimate them. How could I underestimate them? If I had, we would have sent Shreve. Said glanced at the slightly buck-toothed man next to him. The buck-toothed man glared at Said and pointed at his nose. Because he was small, he had to tiptoe a little to point at people, which looked a little funny. What do you mean? Do you want us to have a fight now? Shreve said angrily. I'm not afraid of you. No internal fighting. The black female student named Mars continued. Said, you will take care of the National Pavilion. We will only stay in Shanghai for one day. The next day we will fly to the ancient capital of Zion, which is our real goal. The young man called Said laughed and said, make sure to leave on time. Tang Mao, who had been in seclusion for a few days, had nothing to do, so he decided to go to the National Pavilion to see Munijio. The Chinese National Pavilion is located on the Huangpu River facing the Oriental Pearl Tower. When Tang Mao arrived, he saw a foreign birdman. Moreover, he seemed to be asking something. Said, who had left their team, walked to the gate of the stylish hemispherical building and asked a uniformed guard at the gate, hello, is this the challenge hall for the Huangsha World University competition? Yes, but visitors are not allowed here, please leave. The uniformed man glanced at the foreigner and said lightly, because it is close to the Oriental Pearl Tower and other famous skyscrapers, there will always be foreign tourists who accidentally come to this national hall. Junja has to repeat this sentence every day. If he is allowed to bring a recorder on duty, he will use the button instead of answering. Said looked at the soldier in front of him with his unique confidence and said seriously, I'm not here to visit, I'm here to challenge. You? Are you alone? Junja was stunned for a moment and asked to see his ID. Said took out the identity badge issued by the International Unified, and his face was still full of mysterious and confident smile. After handing over the ID, Said asked again, can I go in? Why are you alone? Shouldn't your Egyptian team come together? Junja said with a confused look on his face. For this kind of thing, we can just send a representative. I'm the representative of the team. Others have more important things to do. Said truthfully. Then I will take you first. However, before Junja finished speaking, Tang Mao came over and blocked the two of them. Junja was stunned and immediately said, classmate, you are. I'm from the National Pavilion. After responding to Junja, Tang Mao looked at the man from Egypt and said in the international language, trash, go back and find your team, otherwise, you won't get the national seal here if you lose. I have never been so arrogant when I went to other countries. A small Egypt came to my own land, and I'm still so arrogant. The key is that Tang Mao knows that, if he is allowed to go in, this grandson will have the advantage of the undead, and the staff inside will really not be able to deal with him. Therefore, before he leaves, he should first warn the scum who are provoking the countries. If you don't have some strength, don't come here to pretend. Said was stunned when he heard this. He was already arrogant enough. I didn't expect that the guy in front of him was more arrogant than him. He immediately said with some displeasure, how dare you insult me? Trash. After hearing Tang Mao's curse again, Said shouted angrily, you deserve a beating. He certainly didn't dare to kill people, but he felt that he could still teach Tang Mao a lesson. Tang Mao still said with disdain, "It seems that if daddy doesn't give you some social beatings, you don't know your own weight at all, right?" Just when the two were about to fight, the instructor here, Bei Dongli, came out and said, "Stop, what are you doing?" And next to him, it was Junjie who was guarding here just now. It seems that he was afraid that the two would fight, so he went in to call for help, right? Seeing the appearance of the instructor, Said stopped. Tang Mao didn't move at first, because he was waiting for this kid to make a move first. Otherwise, how could he beat him? At this time, Junjie, who had not had time to explain, pointed at Said, who had a dark face, and whispered, "This is the challenger from the Egyptian team. They sent one person here, saying that they were challenging the Huaxia Pavilion. One person is enough." Then he pointed at Tang Mao and said, "This classmate seemed to have heard what he said, and then told him to get out." Hearing this, Bei Dongli, who was still puzzled just now, flushed as red as Zhang Fei's rage after hearing this, and felt that a noise was about to roar out of his mouth. Looking at the guy in front of him, he resisted the urge to break the guy's long neck and said, "Let's go in and compete." Although he knew that Tang Mao did nothing wrong, he was here to challenge after all. At present, the Huaxia Palace is about to become a sign in place, so even if he is angry, he has to be patient when he is challenged, right? Seeing this, Tang Mao had no choice but to say, "Trash, since the teacher is here, let me let you feel the pleasure of walking more." As he said that, Tang Mao walked into the National Pavilion. When the teacher Bei Dongli saw Tang Mao, he asked puzzledly, "You don't seem to be from our National Pavilion, right?" Tang Mao waved his hand and responded, "No, I just encountered this kind of dog who challenged the pavilion, and I wanted to deal with it by the way." Chapter 236, Fighting the Teacher. Tang Mao walked into the National Pavilion. After he finished speaking, Instructor Bei wanted to say something, but obviously he had no chance. He looked back at the Egyptian player Said, and walked in with a cold snort. After watching Tang Mao and Instructor Bei walk in, Said curled his lips and said, "HMPH, how rude." The National Pavilion was about the size of 3 football fields put together. There were 4 different terrains on the ground: jungle, gravel, stone, and grass, which the players could use during the battle. The entire National Pavilion's zenith was that hemisphere, a huge hemisphere suspended above the entire National Pavilion's fighting field. After entering the National Pavilion, Said was full of praise for the magnificent atmosphere in front of him. In Egypt, they would not necessarily spend so much money to build such a magic duel venue. It was just that fancy things didn't make much sense. Why are there so many people here? Isn't it said that the battle in the National Pavilion should not be open to the public? Said glanced around and found that there were about 100 people in the National Pavilion, men and women, most of them were young. He looked at Junjie beside him and asked. Some were practicing in the field, some were watching from outside, and some were surrounding someone who looked like a teacher, listening to his explanation. Although Junjie was not happy with the guy in front of him, he still explained, "There are not many countries coming to the Huaxia National Pavilion now, and the players of the National Pavilion also need training, so some outstanding students and teams will be selected from their own national schools to come and compete with the players of the National Pavilion." "I see, but can the competition be held immediately? I want to finish it quickly and return to the team quickly. Our team really has important things to do," said seriously. Hearing this, Instructor Bei's face turned pale, and Tang Mao was thinking about how to deal with this grandson later. Killing him is definitely not an option, and if he is to be crippled, there must be a limit. Dong Fanglai. After a few people came in, Bei Dongli was so angry that he was about to jump up and down, so he didn't care about the reception and etiquette, and directly pointed out Dong Fanglai. The students taught by Bei Dongli are all capable of holding up half the sky, and the small Egypt actually treats him as a phoenix and a chicken coop. Dong Fanglai was still a little confused. He didn't know why the teacher was even more angry after going out. What was he asked to do? But even though he was puzzled, he still hurriedly responded, "The students are here. Beat him up, beat him hard. If he can get out of bed and walk in a week, I will make you lie in bed for a month." Exclamation mark. Bei Dongwei almost roared. Dan Fanglai was dumbfounded. What's the logic? Question mark. Also, why is the teacher so angry? Could it be that this handsome foreigner stole his wife? Question mark. Not really. Bei Dongwei's wife is just as tough as him. There is no reason for her to be stolen. Dan Fanglai was confused and walked towards the fighting arena. Said smiled, and his confident dimples never disappeared. He muttered, "Is it starting now? I'm a little surprised, but I like it so direct. Damn Egyptian, don't be crazy!" Exclamation mark. Bei Dongwei looked at Said's back and cursed unceremoniously. At this time, Tang Mao shrugged and said, "I say, teacher, why don't you let me go up?" Bei Dongwei then remembered that there was another person here, but he didn't know Tang Mao, and immediately said, "Who are you? Although you are very courageous, you are not from our pavilion team. How can I agree to let you play? What if you lose?" Tang Mao curled his lips and said, "Well, you should worry about your students. If they really have the ability to fight, I won't bother to meddle in other people's business." Teacher Bei, who was already furious, was even more furious. Being looked down upon by a little Egyptian guy, and being looked down upon by Tang Mao, he immediately said angrily, "You fart. Can the students I handed in not be able to beat a little Egyptian guy? Damn it, you are begging me for mercy." Tang Mao also had a bad temper. After being yelled at a few times, he got angry. He didn't care who the guy was, and he said directly, "If you can coach some colleges that can stand up, can I come in and meddle in this business? What has the government in the country become now? Sign into the country, you." Bei Dongwei was suddenly confronted, and he was speechless for a while. Can he say that this is the blame of the students? What do you mean by you? I'm here to solve the problem. If you keep nagging, believe it or not, I will knock you down first. A combat instructor, the strength is just that of a high-level magician. Tang Mao has never been afraid of high-level magicians. After all, it's not like he hasn't dealt with that little bitch Mochizuki Kyanksen before. But Tang Mao's momentum made him really wonder whether he should fight back. The main reason was that he didn't understand Tang Mao's identity. Moreover, the record of the national hall was indeed a bit lame. Get down here, someone is here to kick the hall, and watching you fight is like a quarrel between young girls. Bei Dongwei didn't know Tang Mao's background, so he could only yell and change the target of his anger, calling down all the people who were originally sparring in the fighting field. There were also dozens of academies sparring with each other in the fighting field. After being yelled at, they all ran down obediently, confused, and didn't know what was going on. Tang Mao chose to ignore it directly. Anyway, it was enough for him not to complain to him. At this time, Dan Fanglai and Said had already walked up, and the two had a brief conversation. Dan Fanglai's temper was not much better when he heard that this guy was an Egyptian representative coming to challenge the hall, and he came alone. He was about to spit sparks. This guy really treated the challenge seal of the Chinese National Pavilion as a sign-in seal. You can print it by yourself. Let me print a fist mark on your black face first. Where does the confidence come from? Hey, Dan Fanglai, what's the situation? A student asked as he stepped down. This black guy's from the Egyptian government team, and he came to challenge the hall alone. Dan Fanglai replied. Damn, he thinks he is Chen Zhen, and he dares to come and kick our hall alone. When this person heard it, he immediately started to curse. Soon this student spread the situation to the ears of other students. Not surprisingly, all the 100 students who were practicing in the National Hall glared at each other, wishing they could personally go up and beat up this arrogant and conceited Egyptian guy. This kind of thing will make any Chinese person furious. If some known powerful countries do this, no one will say anything. Why does an Egyptian team look down on the Chinese National Hall like this? Fuck him. Beat him to death. Damn, don't hold back. Kill him. Hearing that all the students from the academy were cheering him on, Dan Fanglai also became serious. Moreover, he understood why the instructor was so angry. However, no matter how much he cursed or complained, every battle in the National Hall was related to his future and the glory of his country, and he couldn't afford to take it lightly. Wait a minute. Said suddenly spoke. Dan Fanglai said disdainfully, you are afraid now, but it's too late. Dan Fanglai was not going to let him go. After all, this was related to his own honor. If he let him run away at this time, in the team battle or 3 wins out of 5, Dan Fanglai felt that his honor would be in jeopardy. Chapter 237, Long time no see, Concubine Mew. Just when Dan Fanglai was thinking, Said on the other side said word by word in international language, I'm not afraid. No matter how many of you there are, it will only take me a little longer. I want to know how I can get the challenge chapter. The challenge methods of each pavilion are different. Since I'm here alone today, well, you can come together, but you have to meet some of my conditions. If it's a one-on-one fight or a round-robin fight, you have to stipulate how many I have to win before I can get the challenge chapter. Dan Fanglai's face turned black when he heard this. Rules, of course. Every place needs rules. Sayed didn't know what the character of the Chinese people was like. He felt that if he won 4 or 5, and they still said it didn't count, then he would have to challenge all the people in their pavilion in a row. Although he was not afraid of such a round-robin fight, he was annoyed endlessly. Beidongwu's face was a little livid, and he was just being criticized, so he spoke very impolitely, saying bluntly, "You are really the most annoying foreigner I have ever seen." Said didn't care at all, but responded humorously, "Oh, thank you." Seeing the look of this foreigner, everyone was even more angry. Beidongwu said angrily, "You make the rules." If there were no rules, Beidongwu would have wanted to beat him up himself. He thought he was praising him? Said again, "Then what you said, is it effective?" "Nonsense, I'm the instructor here. If you apologize for your arrogance now, and bring your entire team to challenge me honestly, I will give you the challenge chapter directly for your sincerity. I, Beidongwu, have the final say here." Beidongwu said angrily. Said still said calmly, "It's impossible to apologize, and I didn't do anything wrong. Since I'm the one who makes the rules, then let me be the ring, and you send people up. I'll give you 3 places in total. You can come together or take turns. As long as you can beat me, I lose. Otherwise, the challenge chapter will be issued to me immediately. I'm really in a hurry." This arrogant look made everyone feel unhappy. At this time, Tang Mao didn't care about the little trash there, but came to his concubine Mew. When Munijio saw Tang Mao, she was also slightly stunned. "My beloved concubine, long time no see." Tang Mao happily hugged Munijio in his arms. This voice attracted a lot of attention. Munijio was also shy. She didn't expect that she would meet Tang Mao here. She wanted to push Tang Mao away, but Tang Mao, this bastard, didn't care about the occasion at all. "Let me go first." Feeling the eyes around, Munijio whispered. Tang Mao let go of Munijio, and then said, "Did you miss me? Didn't you go to participate in the training of the national government? How come you are here?" Munijio obviously didn't think that Tang Mao was kicked out. After all, he was very powerful, and Munijio knew something about it. He had already become a high-level mage. "You didn't see me when you left last time, and I took a special leave to come back to see you after the first training," Tang Mao said, while sniffing Munijio's exclusive fragrance. Beidongwu next to him was so angry that he wanted to curse their pharaoh ancestors, but when he heard the conversation between the 2 people next to him, he was stunned for a moment and said, "Are you a formal member of the national government?" "Yeah." Tang Mao hugged Munijio and responded in a light voice. Beidongwu had not gotten over the kid yelling at him just now, and he did not care about the Egyptian guy anymore. He looked at Tang Mao and said, "Humph, I think you were kicked out of the official team. You can just call that old-fashioned Fengli and ask him. I asked for leave. I came here today to look for Jiao. I just happened to run into a piece of trash looking for trouble. Otherwise I would not have gotten involved in your business." Tang Mao said in a cold voice, not paying any attention to the instructor. "You." Beidongwu was stunned. Suddenly, he realized that this kid was really crazy. After a long time without a response, said impatiently, "If you feel it's not safe, then 4 places are fine. 5 is fine. More than 5 will take too much time, and you won unfairly, right?" Before Beidongwu could speak, Tang Mao said, "Hey, trash, if you beat that kid, Dad will go down to play with you. If you beat me, the national government seal is yours." Said, who had a calm face, was also a little angry after hearing the word trash. He wanted to go up and attack Tang Mao. When Bei Donghui was about to speak, Tang Mao said coldly, "I said, if something goes wrong, I will take responsibility." It was the first time that Instructor Bei encountered such an arrogant student. However, since Tang Mao was a formal team member and could still ask for leave from Fengli, he must have the strength. Of course, he didn't think that Tang Mao would lie to him. He dared to talk about Fengli and lied. He was afraid that he didn't want to mix. Seeing Bei Donghui nodded, Said suppressed his anger and said, "Okay, kid, I want to beat you up too." Immediately, Said started fighting with Dan Fanglai. Dan Fanglai had the advantage, but this idiot was so modest that he didn't attack directly. Bei Donghui was so angry that he cursed. Hiss, hiss. But he didn't rush to attack, and Said drew star tracks. A ball of turbine swirled in front of Said, looking like countless ghosts dancing in the wind. Undead system. Bei Donghui saw through Said's magic at a glance, and his face was full of astonishment. Tang Mao embraced Munijiro, taking advantage of her from time to time, and said seriously, "Why are you making such a fuss? It's just an undead. I'll destroy him later." Munijiro was shy. She had no way to deal with Tang Mao's shamelessness. If she was not interested in the battle below, she would have buried her head in Tang Mao's arms. In fact, Munijiro refused to be intimate with Tang Mao in public, but this guy just threatened her. If she didn't hug him, he would kiss her. Munijiro never doubted that Tang Mao was joking, so she could only let Tang Mao do what he wanted. Bei Donghui glanced at Tang Mao and said unhappily, "Boy, I'm looking forward to your performance." Tang Mao thought for a moment, looked at Instructor Bei and said, "If I can solve him and his team at the same time, I can give you some dignity back. How are you going to thank me?" Bei Donghui was about to explode, but he really didn't think his team could handle this undead system, so he said, "If you can give me back my dignity, I'll do whatever you say." Those who support books can open an automatic subscription. The average subscription performance can't keep up. In addition, if there are fellow writers who want to pie, please contact me. Chapter 238, a battle in less than a minute. At this time, the battle in the field had already begun, but Tang Mao did not watch the battle in the field, but looked at Instructor Bei and said, "Okay, that's straightforward. If I help you solve these losers, you just need to take care of my girlfriend." Instructor Bei heard this and snorted coldly, as if Tang Mao was using him to pick up girls. However, he was really angry just now. So he said, "There shouldn't be any care. After all, everything needs to be fair and just. However, I can apply for a reward for you. But the premise is that you can win." Tang Mao waved his hand and said, "It's nothing, don't worry." Hearing this, some male students who were interested in Munijiro suddenly became very unhappy. After all, this guy's too good at pretending, right? Munijiro said worriedly, "Tang Mao, are you sure you can deal with him? Don't you still believe me?" Tang Mao looked at Munijiro confidently. Munijiro was stared at, feeling a little shy. She finally nodded and said in a whisper, "Believe. Isn't that the end?" At this time, the final moment of the fight had come. When the grey iron corpse rushed over, Dan Fanglai was completely like being hit by a truck. He flew backwards at an astonishing speed and hit the protective barrier of the fighting field heavily. Obviously, he had reached his limit. The impact force was so strong that Dan Fanglai's armor could not support it at all. Blood spit out from Dan Fanglai's mouth. Dan Fanglai's face was extremely pale. His bones were so broken that he couldn't stand up at all. "Weak and fragile," said disdainfully, and then looked at Tang Mao and said, "Come on, I'll let you know what it means to keep your mouth clean." Bei Donghui took a deep breath, held back his curses, and called another healing student to treat Dan Fanglai. At this time, Tang Mao also disappeared directly beside Munijiro and appeared in the field with full style. Empty. High-level space magic. When Tang Mao suddenly appeared in the field, a cry of surprise came out. "Oh my god, who is this person? This is space magic. And it's high-level space magic." When Tang Mao entered the field in a high-profile manner, everyone who had previously believed that he was pretending was now completely convinced of Tang Mao's strength. Even the instructor Bai Donghui was shocked. Then he looked at Mu Nijio next to him and asked in confusion, "Is your boyfriend a space mage?" Mu Nijio was even more embarrassed. You know, she hasn't agreed to Tang Mao yet. So she said, "He is not my boyfriend." There is nothing wrong with what she said. After all, the two of them have not confirmed their relationship now. They just had a few in-depth exchanges. Then she whispered, "He is a high-level space mage." And when Munigio said the last part, no one was listening to this matter. Everyone had already looked at the field. Bai Donghui just thought that Munigio was shy and didn't care. After all, they were hugging and kissing each other in public, so if they were not boyfriends, they were just being hooligans. If they were being hooligans, Munigio would obviously not have this expression, right? Said was also slightly stunned, and at the same time, there was a trace of solemnity on his face. "So you are a space mage, no wonder you are so arrogant." Tang Mao put his hands around his chest and said in a light voice, "Don't be nervous, trash, I'll give you a chance to summon your friends." Said was stunned and said angrily, "You, don't be so arrogant." Tang Mao directly said, "Little trash, don't waste my time, I'm very busy." Tang Mao was not polite to this kind of person who came to pretend to be a challenger. Moreover, he really looked down on this country of Egypt. Using the undead system to participate in the battle is simply not fun. Moreover, it would be fine if it happened in other places, but it was just a joke. To come to my great China, to pretend to be a hoot. Said angrily, "You." Tang Mao's eyes were filled with cold breath, and he said, "If you don't do it, I will do it." Seeing this, Said summoned the army of undead. Because Tang Mao showed the strength of the high-level space system, even he didn't dare to be careless. He summoned his trump card, the warlord level undead, and summoned them directly. After seeing that the Egyptian had summoned almost everything, Tang Mao's mouth corners slightly raised. Bai Donghui was a little puzzled when he saw Tang Mao ask the other party to summon all the undead. Even if they were members of the national government, even if they were high-level space systems, they didn't have to be so arrogant, right? The students present actually felt that Tang Mao was a little pretentious. After all, no matter how fast the magic is drawn, you still have a gap. People are already prepared, how can you fight? And when the undead rushed towards Tang Mao, he saw him draw the high-level magic of the summoning system. The next moment, Zhao Hei rushed out first, followed by rhinos, wild boars, wild elephants, and nearly 40 monsters of all kinds rushed out. Except for Zhao Hei, who was the leader, the rest were all at the slave level. Of course, there were also a few at the general level. Boom boom. When he saw Zhao Hei, the arrogant Said was stunned. He wanted to ask, is this a member of the collection team? Even if he was a formal member of the government, he might not have this strength, right? High-level space system? High-level summoning system? Under the leadership of Zhao Hei, in a collision, those undead souls turned into residual souls and were absorbed by Tang Mao in the Killing Jade. When Said found something wrong, he was anxious in an instant. Then he shouted, "What are you doing? I admit defeat. Stop. Stop. Rubbish. Provocation will cost you a price." Tang Mao naturally has no shortage of brokenness, but this little Egyptian guy is too arrogant. In this regard, he naturally has no room for mercy. Of course, even if he doesn't provoke, Tang Mao has no room for mercy. After the beasts defeated the undead, Said wanted to recall them. However, he found that he had no chance at all. At the same time, Tang Mao appeared in front of him. With the help of Space Force and Cloud stepping boots, he kicked him to the energy barrier. With a bang sound, Said, who was just arrogant, spurted out a mouthful of blood. Then he looked at the field unwillingly and passed out. The battle ended suddenly. In fact, not even a minute had passed. Bai Donghui's mouth twitched slightly. At this time, he had completely believed that this kid was a member of the Guofu team. Moreover, he might have received Feng Li's vacation. After all, this strength surprised even him. Chapter 239 Shopping. Quick, find a few people to treat him. Don't let him die. Bai Donghui looked at the fainted Said and ordered hurriedly. After all, it was a rule. Although he was very arrogant, such a thing that people came to challenge and let him die naturally could not happen in China. Tang Mao's attack was naturally still serious. The reason why Sayed fainted was more likely to be anger. After all, he suffered a huge loss in this wave. After knocking Sayed unconscious, Tang Mao took Mu Nugeo away. Beidang Wei did not stop him. After all, he still had to deal with Sayed's affairs. Originally, the jealous eyes of those who were interested in Mu Nugeo and Tang Mao were completely dissipated at this moment. Space high level, summoning high level. The world government competition is just a stepping stone. The other party's achievements in the future are naturally limitless. It is obviously not a good thing to provoke such a person. The injured Dong Fanglai was even more dumbfounded. He had naturally heard of Tang Mao. After all, everyone was in the same college. However, he used to think that it was just a rumor. But today, after seeing it with his own eyes, he realized that his pride might not even count for anything to the other party. Because Tang Mao won too overwhelmingly, when he proposed to take Mu Nugeo away, the instructor agreed directly. Mu Nugeo was a little shy about this. After the two left the national pavilion, Mu Nugeo looked at Tang Mao, who was holding her hand all the time, and said coquettishly, "Who are you to me? Why do you decide for me?" She refused Tang Mao's intimacy, but unfortunately, she didn't listen at all. Moreover, this time Tang Mao came back with the reason of coming back to see her. It is impossible to say that she is not moved. You know, the identity of a formal member of the national government is what many people dream of. Whether it is true or false, she is already very satisfied that he really took leave and came back and appeared in front of her. Moreover, Mu Nugeo also felt a little guilty. If she had known this, she should not have ignored Tang Mao when he left. This is why she did not refuse Tang Mao's intimate contact just now. Although Tang Mao was indeed a little overbearing, but as long as she refused seriously, he would not go too far. However, girls always say one thing and mean another. Even if she did not agree to anything from Tang Mao, she was still willing to say something nice to him. Tang Mao responded, "Who am I to you? Don't you know it?" Seeing his pointed look, Mu Nugeo said politely, and then corrected, "We are just ordinary roommates, don't think too much." Just as she finished speaking, Tang Mao pecked her tender face on the left. Ah! Mu Nugeo was suddenly attacked, and immediately cried out. She pulled her hand out, and was about to hit Tang Mao, but before she hit him, she was caught by Tang Mao. With both hands controlled, Mu Nugeo wanted to pull out but couldn't, staring at Tang Mao angrily. "What are you doing?" Hearing this, Tang Mao responded immediately, "Fuck you, woo." Hearing that he deliberately misunderstood her meaning, Mu Nugeo just wanted to correct him, but he corrected her herself. She wanted to retreat and avoid him, but Tang Mao didn't leave her alone. She retreated until he and the two of them leaned against the wall of a building. Mu Nugeo had no way to escape, and had to accept her fate. Ah, so domineering. So romantic. This is a commercial street, and today happens to be the weekend. There are naturally many young couples who go out on dates, and several girls shopping together. After witnessing the whole process, many people were shy, and talked about it. But at the same time, many girls also felt very excited. Mu Nugeo's petite body was completely blocked in Tang Mao's arms. However, although she couldn't see what was going on, she could hear the discussions next to her clearly. Therefore, she became even more shy. She dared not move at all. Tang Mao seemed to see her shyness, let go of her, and said with a smile, "What's the big deal? They are a bunch of single dogs, just envious." Mu Nugeo buried in Tang Mao's arms and patted Tang Mao's shoulder. Because Tang Mao's voice was not small, many single girls present felt 10,000 points of critical damage. There were even some hot-tempered little princesses who wanted to come and teach this rude person a lesson. Tang Mao was naturally not interested in wasting time with them. He stroked Mu Nugeo's soft body and drew a space constellation. The next moment, the two people who were still showing off here suddenly disappeared here. The person who just wanted to talk to Tang Mao was completely dumbfounded. Oh my god. Constellation. High-level space magic. Wow, I actually met a high-level space mage. In China, space magic is still relatively rare, not to mention a high-level space mage. Even in several major cities in China, there are not many people. The girl who wanted to ask Tang Mao for an explanation patted her little ear in fear. She almost offended a space magician. After Tangmao used the space magic, he took Munugio directly to an alley in the food street. Although Munugio also felt the fluctuation of the magic aura, she didn't look up because of shyness. After all, this kind of thing in broad daylight is a bit too much. However, it seems that there is no movement nearby. Moreover, Tangmao, the bastard, actually took action. Munugio had to look up, but when she saw that she was in a small alley, she was stunned. After looking left and right for a while, she slapped Tangmao's claws away, glared at him and said, "You didn't use space magic just now, did you? Am I very considerate?" Tangmao nodded in response. He didn't care about his hand being slapped away. Why not just put it in again? Munugio ruthlessly slapped him away again, and then said, "Get out of the way. You're going too far." This guy had already taken her out of everyone's sight, but he didn't say anything. He even deliberately took advantage of her, which was extremely hateful. "I thought you knew." Tangmao smiled and said, "Besides, Jiao, I haven't seen you for so long. I miss you." Munugio looked at Tangmao and smiled, with an expression that said, "Do you think I believe it?" Tangmao shrugged. Although he did not simply miss someone, there were some other factors, but if it wasn't like this, how could she show her charm? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 240 Greedy Sisters. Seeing that Munugio didn't believe it, Tangmao said again, "Don't disbelieve it, it's because of your charisma, my beloved concubine Mu, that I can't control myself." Munugio asked suspiciously, "Really?" Tangmao nodded and said, Yes. I heard that Muningsu has also joined the national government team." Munugio suddenly said, "You are like this when facing me, and the ice and snow beauty, just because of your lust, won't you? How is it possible?" Tangmao felt guilty for a while, but still said normally, "Am I that kind of person? I can assure you that nothing has happened between me and Muningsu. Of course, this is not false. I just touched and kissed her. Apart from that, I really didn't do anything." Munugio obviously didn't believe it, looking at Tangmao and said, "Really?" Tangmao paused and said, "You said it all. She is an ice and snow beauty with a cold personality. How could she have anything with me? In fact, even if you have something, I don't care." Munugio said calmly again. Tangmao glanced at Munugio, looking at her as if she was mentally retarded. He had lived 2 lives, so he didn't care whether what she said was true or not. Since they already had that kind of relationship, Tangmao naturally couldn't believe what she said. Munugio saw Tangmao gave her a slightly disgusted look and said angrily, "What the hell is that look? What I told you is true." Tangmao said seriously, "I'm a person who is more dedicated to love, and I'm motivated to be a warm man. Please don't train me to be the kind of person I have never liked since I was a child." Looking at Tangmao's serious look, Munugio smiled, but didn't say anything else. Seeing her like this, Tangmao was sure that his guess was right. Tangmao thought to himself, sure enough, women like to say one thing and mean another. When Tangmao was mumbling inwardly, Munugio put her hands behind her back and said playfully, "Let's go eat something." It can be seen that she was quite satisfied with Tangmao's answer. What to eat? When Munugio was about to speak, Xiao Yanji suddenly ran out. Moreover, the snow girl also appeared silently beside Tangmao. After seeing the 2 older girls, Munugio was slightly stunned, and then looked at the little hot doll that had already jumped into her arms. Holding Yanji, Munugio was a little surprised and said, Little Yanji has advanced." When little Yanji heard about eating, she immediately pulled her sister out. In addition, for the unscrupulous father's nature, what to eat must be decided by the mother in front of her, so little Yanji can be said to have a clear goal and directly jumped into Munugio's arms. After all, she had been with Yanji for a while, so when she saw little Yanji gesturing and whimpering, she asked, "Do you want to eat seafood?" Munugio looked at the little porcelain doll and smiled. "Okay, then it's up to you." The snow girl grabbed Tang Mao's trouser legs, but she said she wanted to eat ice cream. Obviously, her older daughter was led astray by the younger daughter. She used to be shy and didn't like to show up in crowded places. But after experiencing some of the delicacies of the world, as long as she heard about eating, she would immediately appear. However, the snow girl is a snow girl after all, and she still has her aloofness. She also sticks to Tang Mao when she comes out, unlike the greedy little Yanji. Whoever gives her milk is her mother. As long as she is given delicious food, she will be close to anyone. Of course, this is also the case when Tang Mao doesn't care. Once she feels unhappy, she will immediately turn into a warm-hearted little cotton jacket and stay by Tang Mao's side obediently. Looking at the spoiled daughter, Tang Mao had to say, Jiao, you take this little greedy ghost first. I will take the eldest daughter to buy some ice cream. Okay. Mu Nijio responded and left with Zio Yanji, while Tang Mao took the snow girl to buy her favorite. On the way, Tang Mao specifically said, my daughter, after eating delicious food at night, take your sister back to practice, okay? The snow girl glanced at her scumbag father and said, oh, practice can't be improved all at once. Others don't know what your father's situation is, but you don't know it? Oh. The snow girl said with disgust, it's obviously you who only think about the combination every day, and you don't practice well at all. Tang Mao's old face turned red, and then he said, do you want to eat ice cream? Upon hearing this, the eldest daughter instantly lost her temper, and obediently said that she would take Yanji back to the contract space after eating. A moment later, in the seafood restaurant. Although there is no sea monster meat to eat here, there is no shortage of delicious food. Moreover, Yanji and Zunu came here for seafood. Tang Mao and Munijio hadn't started yet, but the two sisters were already eating. It seemed that, because they didn't feel the delicious food last time, the two of them came with a meal, until they were full. Munijio smacked her lips, and looked at Tang Mao and said, how long have you not taken Yanji and Zunu out to eat delicious food? Tang Mao was embarrassed, as if he was abusing the two sisters. But can he be blamed for this? Since Yanji entered the advanced stage of deep sleep, Zunu has hardly come out. Of course, it was also because Tang Mao was not eating for his own reasons. After returning to China, he only thought about warmth and shyness with Tang Yu. If he hadn't brought delicious food to Zhu and Snake and was resentful, he would have ignored the two little ones. However, this younger sister obviously successfully led her sister astray. When she ate, her cold personality was instantly thrown behind her. This was. Tang Mao sometimes wondered what made these two little guys. How could they be so greedy? However, it might be because of the two little ones' lead. Tang Mao and Munijio also consumed a lot. When paying the bill, the waiter's exaggerated eyes made Munijio almost shy. After a delicious meal, Zio Yanji was dragged back to the contract space by her sister. According to the laws of nature, ice and fire are incompatible. However, it seems that these two little ones have lived together for a long time. It may also be because they are both elemental pets and have been contracted by the same person, so they really become sisters. Is Zio Yanji sleepy? Munijio said with some regret. I still want to take her around. It can be seen that she still likes Zio Yanji very much. Of course, it's not that Munijio doesn't like Zunu, but Tang Mao's eldest daughter is too cold. Even if she wants to like her, she won't give her this opportunity. It's so late. Why are you still going around? And we haven't had a world of two for a long time. Let's go home. Looking at Munijio, who has grown up twice, Tang Mao has been itching for a long time. Although he only touched it today, the size has obviously changed. Tang Mao felt that he needed to check it out. Munijio looked at Tang Mao's anxious expression. How could she not know what this guy was thinking? Chapter 241 Munijio's Indulgence. Although Munijio didn't want to just do this, she felt a little strange after being explored by Tang Mao. In addition, thinking that Tang Mao would leave in a few days to return to the Guofu team for training, she agreed. Seeing Munijio nod, Tang Mao wanted to take her to the nearby park. Of course, Munijio would not agree. What a joke. How can a serious lady from a noble family be in the park? In the end, Tang Mao just drugged her, but still couldn't make Munugyo agree. Helplessly, he had to take her back to the apartment. It was not far from the apartment, and it was already night. Tang Mao used shadow magic and took Munugyo back to the apartment in a few minutes. As soon as Munugyo opened the door, the whole person left the ground. Just when Tang Mao closed the door with one foot and was about to take Munugyo upstairs, his footsteps suddenly stopped. Nothing else, just a white patch. Just when the two were stunned for a moment, a deafening scream came out. Munugyo jumped in front of AI22 in a hurry. She glared at Tang Mao, still looking. Oh no. Tang Mao had no intention of closing his eyes, but he still denied it. Damn Tang Mao, bastard. Then, AI22 cursed again and again. After a while, lying on the recliner, Tang Mao curled his lips and thought to himself, it's not like I haven't seen it before. What's the fuss? At this time, AI22 and Munugyo, who had finished tidying up, walked down together. Why are you back? Why are you here? AI22 and Tang Mao said at the same time. None of your business. You mind me? The two replied at the same time. You. Looking at the two people, Munugyo was a little amused. They can quarrel almost synchronously, which is really unique. After a quarrel, AI22 was naturally no match. Tang Mao's mouth cannon, how could she compare? Helplessly, AI22 had to pull Munugyo's arm and swayed. System you, this bad guy bullied me again, and you are still laughing. Munugyo shrugged and said, I can't control your business. Munugyo really didn't want to get involved in the quarrel between the two. After all, the two of them quarreled every 3 days, and made a big noise every 5 days. As for being looked at, Munugyo directly chose to ignore it. After all, AI22, this little girl, had already been taken advantage of. So she was no longer surprised. After saying that, Munugyo turned around and went upstairs. When she turned the corner, she turned back and said, you two keep your voice down. Don't disturb the neighbors. After saying that, Munugyo went back to her room. Seeing that Munugyo didn't care and was gone, AI22's first reaction was to run. She could output firepower, that was entirely because Munugyo was here. Tang Mao didn't dare to do anything. Left alone. That flat around, why not let Tang Mao do it? However, before he could run away, the back of his pajamas was grabbed. AI22 knew that he could not run away, so he said, what are you doing? I tell you, if you dare to bully me, I will let my brother target you. He is the captain of the national government. Oh, you are so bold, right? You dare to threaten me? Tang Mao said with a smile. Seeing Tang Mao's appearance, he also knew how powerless he was in danger. AI22 pouted and did not run away. He turned around and lay down beside him. You bully me. You were so excited just now. Why didn't you explode? Tang Mao also let go and habitually probed into Munugyo. It's a bit difficult to guide Munugyo. This silly rabbit, isn't he always accurate in his training? Moreover, this stinky rabbit didn't come back early or late, but came back tonight to cause trouble. If you can't eat it, you have to gnaw a layer of skin off her. AI22 looked at Tang Mao blankly. You know, Munugyo is here now. Is Tang Mao so rampant now? AI22 felt that he needed to be stronger, otherwise he would be bullied to death in the future. She immediately grabbed Tang Mao's claws, stood up, and said condescendingly, you are bullying me like this. I won't dare to do it anymore. I won't dare to do it anymore. Don't scratch me. Ha 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 ha. As she was talking, she suddenly felt itchy. AI22 rolled over and tried to escape, but she admitted defeat in a second. But the person who made trouble had no intention of letting her go. The most important thing was that the original tickling slowly evolved into the second floor. Munugyo was a little confused when she heard the fight below. Speaking of it, although the two had not confirmed their relationship, it was already like that. But knowing that the two were in love, she actually pretended to be nothing and came up. But obviously, she was not so magnanimous in her heart. But she said it herself at the beginning, that she had no intention of having any feelings for Tang Mao, and there was no possibility between the two. She was helping AI22, but in the end, she got herself involved. Moreover, she was one step ahead. Now she has done that first, and there is still an unknown between the two. What would happen when AI-22 happened to be here? In fact, she knew it in her heart, but Munigio had no intention of stopping it. However, after hearing the noise gradually died down, Munigio couldn't help but get up and quietly opened the door and walked out. When she saw that there was no one in the living room and only a few clothes were left, Munigio felt unhappy. Stinky scumbag, dead liar after all. Tang Mao, the bastard, said it so confidently in the afternoon. I didn't expect that this bastard would do it in the evening. Although she was unhappy, Munigio was still cautious when she returned to the room. But what she didn't know was that it was because of her indulgence that somewhere, the last restriction was finally broken. The residents of the Egyptian team, a woman with curly hair, looked at the seriously injured Said and said, "Didn't I tell you not to underestimate the other party? How did you do that?" Said replied helplessly, that man is too strong. He was also a little embarrassed. After all, when he went there, he was full of prestige, but in the end, the smaller buck-toothed man Shrieve mocked, "You have no strength, but you come here to brag about how strong others are? You have made our Egyptian team lose face." You hissed. Said was so angry that he wanted to get up, but the pain from his ribs made him gasp. There was no way. Tang Mao's kick was too hard. Even if there was a healing mage, it would not be healed in a few days. Seeing him like this, Shrieve was even more mocking. Said was so angry that his face turned blue and purple. Mas, wearing black clothes, said coldly, "Stop arguing. We will go back to fight tomorrow. I want to see how strong the man you are talking about is." Said wanted to talk about how strong Tang Mao was, but he was so angry with Shrieve that he ignored it. Chapter 242 Complete Destruction. No words were spoken that night. The next day, when Tang Mao came out, Munigio was no longer at home. He came to the room and took a brief look. Seeing that everything was still there, he breathed a sigh of relief. Obviously, Munigio did not leave. Although he didn't know how to face it, it was always a good thing that she didn't leave. After washing up, when he returned to the room, Tang Mao stepped on AI-22's elastic part without a trace of gentlemanly demeanor. "The sun is shining on your butt. Go out and eat something. Don't sleep." AI-22 looked like he had been beaten up and didn't want to go anywhere. But Tang Mao was buzzing like a fly. Unable to bear it any longer, AI-22 roared, "Get out of here." I don't know how much resentment he had, and this roar scared Tang Mao. But think about it, it wasn't a matter of biting off a layer of skin last night, and then Tang Mao quietly left. After leaving the apartment, he first found a breakfast shop, filled his stomach, and then rushed to the National Pavilion. Myas was a little bored. She was the vice captain of the Egyptian team. They had originally sent Said, who was relatively strong in their team, to deal with the Chinese pavilion, so as to buy them time to do other things. They also believed that Said could actually handle such a thing by himself. Who knew that Said would fall in this backward Chinese pavilion and be seriously injured? The most important thing was that he could not even get the medal of the Chinese pavilion, which was an insult to them. Immediately, they came as a whole team this time. After they entered the pavilion, Instructor Bay came over. Looking at the Egyptians, he said with disdain, "Why is there a team coming this time? Can't you afford to lose and want to play another game?" For Said's pretentious face yesterday, the entire pavilion did not have a good impression of the Egyptians. Myas didn't care what Teacher Bay said. He said to Teacher Bay with a proud look on his face, "Every country has 3 chances to challenge again. We admit that Said has failed, but we don't want to not even get the medal of a small country." Small country? Teacher Bay was furious when he heard this. It was only because several students beside him held him back. Otherwise, he would have wanted to do it himself. China is a great country. Whether it is land area or magician strength, it is much better than Egypt. Moreover, even in the whole world, it is one of the great powers. The Egyptians are just a small desert country. Apart from the pyramids that make people remember, what capital do they have to shout here? Before Teacher Bay could continue to speak, Tang Mao's voice came from behind them. "Hey, trash, can't you afford to lose? And you are just a tiny country, not even as big as a city, and you dare to say this?" He knew that these guys from tiny countries couldn't afford to lose, so he had breakfast and rushed over. Of course, when he came, he did not forget to bring a breakfast for Munijiro. However, when he came in, he heard this stupid woman nagging and complaining, looking like she had endocrine disorders, and immediately retorted. Myas said with impatience and disgust, "Who are you?" Sei did not come today, so Myas did not know that he was defeated by Tangmaro. The main thing was that Tangmaro came out from behind them, and she just thought he was some random person. Tangmaro also had a bad temper and said directly, "I'm your father. You want the seal of the National Hall, don't you? Well, I will give you another chance. If you can beat me, I will give it to you." Myas resisted the urge to kill and scolded, "With you, I can cripple you with just one finger. Get out of my sight now, while I haven't changed my mind." What a backward and rude country. I'm fed up with it. Tangmaro looked at Teacher Bay and said, "Promise her that today. Let these garbage out of the sand pile know their own weight." Teacher Bay was very unhappy when he heard this commanding tone. Speaking of which, who the hell is the teacher? But, then again, the undead system of these dead Egyptians is really not something that ordinary students can deal with, so he said, "He is also from our national pavilion. He sent your team yesterday. If you can beat him, I will arrange an opponent for you. Best of 5. You can take turns to play." Instructor Bay is completely confident in Tangmaro's strength, because he also learned about it when he went back yesterday. But the reason why he said this is just to show that his country is not a signing country. Tangmaro was contemptuous, thinking that he was devalued to a goalkeeper. However, at this time, he naturally would not tear down the teacher's desk. Myas looked disgusted. "You are also a national pavilion player?" She really couldn't imagine that such a guy who was dressed casually and swearing could be a national pavilion player. "Come on, get on the stage. Don't talk." After saying that, Tangmaro walked towards the stage. "That's exactly what I want. I don't want to waste another second here with you," Myas replied and walked onto the stage. Although Teacher Bay was unhappy, he still came to the side and said, "Well, let's start." As Teacher Bay finished speaking, a thunderbolt appeared in Tangmaro's hand, and a thunderbolt came down directly. Last time, he didn't rush to attack, because he was waiting for the Egyptian team to come together. But this time, he wanted to let them know that, if they came to show off, they would not have a chance to attack. This thunderbolt was fast and fierce. Myas, who was about to summon the undead, had to give up and use her shield magic. Boom. After a thunderbolt exploded, Myas was shocked. Because this was just a mid-level thunderbolt, but it almost smashed her shield magic. After Myas's eyes flashed with shock, she felt a heat. Then she saw that the ground was full of fire element energy, and it was rioting without knowing when. Kingluan, Liquan, Jiagang. Tangmaro muttered, and then bang bang bang. The fire pillars of Jiagang shot up into the sky. When the flames dissipated, Namius was burned all over and fainted. Next, Tangmaro was simple and rough. 2 intermediate skills directly made the Egyptian vice captain lose his combat effectiveness. This scene made the Egyptians who came here dumbfounded. Even the students of the national pavilion were shocked. Is this the strength of the national team members? No, I think there should be no one stronger than him even among the regular team members, right? This guy is a monster. The intermediate magic is almost a thought. The students of the national pavilion talked about it, and the instructor Bay there was also full of shock. If you meet an opponent like Tangmaro, if you don't have some defensive means, it seems useless, even if the output is high, right? Although Namius was a little arrogant, what can she do, even if she was prepared? This is basically a fight that leaves you no chance to attack. On the Egyptian team side, the captain, signed, who has golden skin and thick eyebrows, was here to laugh at Tangmaro, who knew that the vice captain would kneel down at the beginning. The other team members were also completely confused. Is there still a fight? Of course, if they use magic tools right from the start, they can fight. However, if they take out high-level magic tools now, wouldn't their trump cards be completely exposed? In the eyes of the Egyptians, Tangmaro is just a perverted talent, but his strength should be only that of a mid-level magician. If they fight, they can still fight, but the key is that if they fight, they will inevitably expose their trump cards. This is not a world competition, but a challenge to the national pavilion. It is not good for them to expose it now. Everyone looked at the captain for a while. At this time, the captain signed had lost his smile, and the white coach also announced the defeat of Mars, and looked at him and said, "Who will you send next?" Tang Mao was also on the stage, looking at a few people and said, "I say, rubbish, are you still going to fight? How about a few more at a time?" Tang Mao's provocation naturally made several people in the Egyptian team unhappy. After all, everyone is a young man. Naturally, everyone has a little temper. But he was stopped by Signed, and then he looked at the white coach unwillingly and helplessly and said, "We admit defeat." When Tang Mao heard that the other party was going to admit defeat, he immediately said with a mouth cannon, "Hey, you came out of the sand pile, that's it. A woman was hammered, and you didn't admit defeat. Are you a man?" Hearing this, the Egyptian players really wanted to go up and compete with Tang Mao. In fact, they are no longer thinking about exposing their true strength in the world competition, but just thinking about fucking him now. They have never seen such an arrogant guy. However, the Egyptian captain still has dignity. He didn't agree, so they could only grit their teeth. Looking at Myas, who was being treated briefly, Zind ignored Tang Mao and said to the team members, "Take Myas with you, let's go. He must get back today's humiliation, but not now." Chapter 243 Can't go back yet. The Egyptian team left. They came in arrogantly and left in a mess. However, unlike the students of the National Pavilion who were full of joyful ridicule, Tang Mao was a little surprised. The captain of this group of puppies is ambitious. He naturally knew that the other party did not use their full strength. Even Myas used only mid-level magic tools. Of course, even if he used his full strength, Tang Mao could still win, but it was just a matter of using a few more skills. After solving the troubles of the Egyptian team, Tang Mao came to Munigio. However, Munigio did not seem to want to pay attention to him, and turned to leave. Tang Mao hurried to her, then handed the breakfast to Munigio and said, "I'm here to give you breakfast, scumbag." Munigio did not take it, but just spit out 2 words in a light voice. Tang Mao's mouth twitched slightly. You know, it was this girl who acquiesced last night that he communicated with AI-22. Otherwise, they would still be close and intimate girlfriends now. Seeing Tang Mao stunned, Munigio snorted and then left in front of him. Tang Mao wanted to catch up, but Munigio just ignored him. As for the other people in the state pavilion, they all chose to ignore it. Tang Mao had no choice but to say, "I'm leaving tomorrow." Seeing Munigio stop, Tang Mao said in a low voice, "Actually, if I can, I don't want to live like the person I hate the most." Hearing this, she turned around. However, the imagined hug, kiss, and comfort did not come true. Instead, Munigio said calmly, "Go back after that. Although Tutu is usually carefree, she will be very sad if you are not here at this time." Tang Mao didn't think much of it. After all, how could Munigio know that, except for the last step, what had AI-22 not tried before? It was almost clear. Munigio was the only one who was there yesterday, otherwise Tang Mao would not have called out when he went in. But he couldn't say this, right? Then he asked, "Are you coming back tonight?" What for? Munigio didn't want to say that. After all, Tang Mao, that bastard, always misinterpreted her meaning. However, with so many people watching here, she felt that this guy wouldn't dare to go too far. And, most importantly, she was still angry. "Come back and we'll discuss it later." Looking at him, she always felt that he had some bad intentions. Munigio seemed to have thought of what Tang Mao had joked about before, about sleeping in the same quilt. He glared at him and said, "Asshole, don't even think about it." Tang Mao was stunned, looking at Munigio puzzledly. "I haven't said anything yet." Munigio obviously hadn't noticed that the two of them were not on the same channel at all, and was still in her own yai. "What are you talking about? You are so dirty, don't even think about it in this life, it's impossible." Although he also saw that Munigio had misunderstood, he said again, "No, I just thought about buying that apartment. It's so dirty." "That's it?" Tang Mao felt a little funny and said, "Nonsense, what else do you think I want to say?" Man. Although she knew that she had thought wrong, but after hearing Tang Mao say that he wanted to buy that apartment, Munigio couldn't understand what he was thinking. He wanted to keep her and AI-2 in captivity for a lifetime. After a little contempt, Mu Nigio said again, the 3-year period is about to end, and I will move out at that time. You dare? Tang Mao was a little anxious when he heard it, and his voice couldn't help but rise a little. Many people looked over after hearing the sound, and Tang Mao said again, if you leave, I will fight to the Mu family and bring you back. Little girl, you're already on the pirate ship, and you still want to run? No way. Of course, he was just talking. If he really wanted to rob someone, it would be very satisfying for a while. However, if Tang Yu knew, it would be a crematorium. However, at this time, he must not be timid in terms of momentum. Mu Nigio paused. She had never seen such an arrogant person since she was a child. Their Mu family is a big family after all. Isn't Tang Mao too arrogant? Moreover, what she said just now was just an angry remark. Especially when she saw many students looking at her. Mu Nigio said shyly, if you don't go back, I will never talk to you again. Then don't leave, okay? Yeah he. Seeing her nod, Tang Mao smiled with satisfaction. Then he said, isn't that good? I'll get out now. With that, Tang Mao walked straight out. After Tang Mao left, Instructor Bei suddenly slapped his head and said, oh, I forgot to tell this kid to go back to the team. He had reported Tang Mao's return before. Feng Li even ordered Tang Mao, the little bastard, to go back to the team as soon as possible. As a result, when the damn Egyptian team came, he was so angry that he forgot about it. Instructor Bei didn't think of asking Mu Nigio to bring a message. After all, from what the two of them said just now, it seemed that they had an unpleasantness. Then Instructor Bei took out his phone and called Feng Li, the old-fashioned man. After all, this matter must be reported. After Tang Mao left the state pavilion, he went back to the apartment. On the way, the phone rang. Tang Mao, who was in a good mood, answered the phone casually. Hello, if you have something to say, come to the meeting. If you don't, leave. As soon as Tang Mao finished speaking, there was a roar from the other end of the phone. Bastard, do you still remember to go back to the team? This sudden roar shocked him. Fortunately, he reacted quickly and quickly pulled the phone away. He saw clearly who was calling. After seeing that it was the old man with a paralyzed face, Tang Mao resisted the urge to yell at him and replied, hey, boss, don't get excited. I haven't finished dealing with things yet. Otherwise, I will go back. Feng Li was even more furious when he heard this. What did you tell me before you left? Do you still want to win glory for the country? I tell you, if you don't want to stay, I will remove you now. It's okay to be funny at ordinary times, but if the World Academy wins, you can get the God Seal, and Tang Mao is always interested in that thing. He immediately said timidly, don't, I really have something to do, and if it weren't for me today, our national pavilion would have become a signing country. Hearing what Tang Mao said, Feng Li's temper subsided a little. After all, Bei Dongwei also reported to him. Fortunately, there was Tang Mao, otherwise, the people of the small country of sand piles would not know their surnames. But one thing at a time, Feng Li said, I know about the national pavilion, but you are short of money, so if you don't follow the team, why do you think you can still stay in the team? Having taught so many classes of students, Tang Mao is obviously very pleasing to the eye. Although this kid is a little lacking, people with ability should be like this. He understands, but at the same time Feng Li is also worried that this kid will delay his future if he doesn't follow and gain experience. Boss, the girls in the team are so attractive. If there is no reason to wait, I would have gone back long ago. Tang Mao was also helpless, but Bao Lao Tao hadn't dealt with it yet, so he really couldn't go back. What's the matter? Tell me. If you need help, maybe I can help you. PS. Another extra chapter for accumulating 10,000 rewards. Thanks to Book Friend with the last number 585. Thanks to New and Old 18. Thanks to Gentle as the Sun. Chapter 244 Confessing to the Boss. Boss, this matter is very complicated. You know about the ancient capital, right? Tang Mao thought about it and then decided to tell the devil's affairs. After all, although this old-fashioned man is sometimes quite unkind, his power in the country is still very strong. Moreover, although the matter of the ancient capital has been concealed, it will be announced sooner or later. Although the matter of the devil will not be announced, this thing will not always be a secret. After listening to Tang Mao's story, Feng Li was also stunned, and then said, "So that's the case. It's me who said too much. Then you can wait for old man Bao to finish it before gathering, but I tell you, in the world competition, don't think about relying on this kind of thing to win." Tang Mao curled his lips. As far as his current strength is concerned, he is crushing his peers in various ways. What's more, there is still a long time, and others are making progress, and he is not idle every day. He said, "Don't worry, boss. Are you still worried about my strength?" After Feng Li agreed, he said, "Since you are in the Magic City, you can go to the National Pavilion to guard it more often. The strength of the National Pavilion is still a little weak now." Tang Mao naturally couldn't agree. He would not do hard work for nothing. "That won't work, boss. You know I'm very poor. I need to practice and various resources." And Feng Li on the other end of the phone was very upset. He really wanted to scold Tang Mao, a guy who only cares about money. But then he thought about it. It's true that he is a wild kid who doesn't rely on anyone's help. It must be difficult. Okay. Although Feng Li understood, he still said impatiently, "You kid really doesn't want to see the rabbit, and don't release the eagle. I will give you 10 million for each time you guard it." "Boss, you should have said so earlier. Money is not a big problem. I will kick a few of those foreign kids for you," Tang Mao said confidently. After hanging up the phone, Tang Mao chose to ignore it. What a joke. Tang Mao didn't think that this money could be earned. After all, not all teams are as stupid as the Egyptians. Come and challenge one person. But if there is time and money to be earned, Tang Mao will naturally not miss it. After talking to Feng Li, Tang Mao called AI22 again. But when the call was connected, there was no surprise. He was yelled at directly. "Tang Mao, you bastard, you have been tossing me all night, and you don't let me rest." AI22 at this time can't be provoked. Tang Mao hung up the phone very cowardly. After hanging up the phone, Tang Mao went to Kingshan hunting house. Speaking of which, he also wanted to return to the team. Jiang Xiaoxu, that little hoof, Mu Ningxu, that cold beauty, full of thoughts. But, then again, if he goes back without waiting for Bao Lao to finish, Tang Mao may miss a lot of things. After all, if he didn't collect the energy that could be loaded when he was given resources to train, would he look for it himself later? That would be stupid. The key is that with his lazy personality, he obviously wouldn't do such a thing. That's why he didn't leave in a hurry. After arriving at the Kingshan hunting house, he found that old man Bao was not there. Only Lenking, who was wearing a maid's apron around her waist, was there. Not to mention, with her tall and slender figure, she looked very charming. "Hey, how come you have time to come here today?" Lenking glanced at Tang Mao. "You know, this kid has rarely come here since the Hangzhou incident." As a result, Lingling was almost helpless and complained every day. With her intelligence, it was really a grievance for her to go to junior high school. However, the magic world is different from the world he used to live in. No matter how high his IQ is, it's still useless before he is 16 years old. Of course, if you have innate self-awakening, it's okay. But, self-awakening is not something that everyone can do. "Big sister, your apron is so beautiful. How about I give you a set of clothes someday?" Tang Mao looked at Lenking with a playful look. Lenking curled her lips. "Don't be shameless. You can't fool Lingling, and you still want to fool me?" How could she not understand Tang Mao's dirty thoughts? After rolling her eyes at Tang Mao, she said, "What would you like to drink? I'm not going home tonight. Get lost." Tang Mao shrugged and said, "Then just have a cocktail." Lenking probably hasn't touched anything here for a long time, and her movements seem a little unfamiliar. It took a long time for her to mix a glass for Tang Mao. At the same time, she also poured a glass for herself. During this period, Tang Mao was not impatient at all. After all, big sister Lenking's shaking was really pleasing to the eye. "If you keep looking at me, I'll knock your head off," Lenking said angrily to the way this guy stared at her nonchalantly. "Don't, it's not that you are charming, senior sister. Otherwise, why would I have been staring at you? Lanking saw Tang Mao's frivolous look and finally said, believe it or not, I will tell Tang Yu about you teasing me. Tang Mao immediately became serious. Senior sister, where did old man Bao go? Seeing Tang Mao's face change in an instant, Lanking felt a little funny and said, so you little gangster are afraid of someone too? What a joke. There is nothing I'm afraid of, I just think it's wrong to tease senior sister. This kind of thing cannot be admitted casually, otherwise this little girl will control me in the future, right? Lanking didn't continue talking about this matter, but responded, Grandpa said that he had some things to go out and handle, and I don't know where he went. But this matter should be related to you, right? I remember Lingling told me that you came back to find Grandpa. Then he left the next day and hasn't come back yet. What did you do with my grandpa? Oh, so that's it. Tang Mao responded, looking at Lanking with a curious face. He smiled and shook his head. This matter must be kept confidential, senior sister. You'd better not ask around. Wait until old man Bao comes back and talk about it. You. Lanking was stunned. This guy went to his grandfather to do things, drinking the cocktail he mixed himself, but he didn't tell her? Before Lanking got angry, Tang Mao said, senior sister, don't be angry first. This matter is a bit complicated, so let's wait for old man Bao to tell you. The main thing is that I can't explain it to you clearly. Lanking saw that Tang Mao, this bastard, just didn't want to say it. What bullshit can't be explained clearly is pure nonsense. Tang Mao shrugged and said, since old man Bao is not here, I will go back to practice. I have to go to the state pavilion to guard it these days. After he finished speaking, he drank the wine in the glass in one gulp, smacked his lips and said, well, the cooking skills are good. Whoever marries the senior sister in the future will have a good taste. Chapter 245 Return to Xianshan. After leaving the Qingshan hunting ground, Tang Mao was originally planning to go back and play with rabbits. After all, now he could play with rabbits openly. But before he had taken a few steps, the girl Mochizuki Chiksen called. As soon as the call was connected, Mochizuki Chiksen's international language came. Hey, Tang Mao, have you dealt with the bead? Not yet. I encountered a small problem. Do you have time recently? I just need your help. Why don't you come to China? Tang Mao was quite satisfied with the concern of the R-based gun mount. Then, thinking that she could play in the wild, she said nonsense. Mochizuki Chiksen was stunned and asked in confusion, need my help? What can I do? Mochizuki Chiksen was still a little panicked about the bead. After all, she almost stepped into the abyss that time. Feeling the excitement of Mochizuki Chiksen, Tang Mao smiled and said, don't be so excited, I just miss you. I'll take you to my great China to experience the charm of the forest. Asshole. Mochizuki Chiksen was a little angry when she heard this. And it was on the phone, so she still had a temper. Thinking back to the scene in the wild that day, she regretted it a little. How could she agree to such an unreasonable thing? This bastard really took her for granted. When Tang Mao heard this, when she was about to say something, Mochizuki Chiksen hung up the phone directly. Well, people are far away abroad. Tang Mao really has no temper at all, and can only mutter in his heart, next time I see you, I will definitely make you unable to walk for 3 or 4 days. After hanging up the phone with Mochizuki Chiksen, Tang Mao returned to the apartment. After arriving at the apartment, the big rabbit was still dormant. However, as soon as Tang Mao came back, even if she was in a bad mood after getting up, it took Tang Mao a while to get rid of it in the evening. When Munigyo came back, the big rabbit had already run away. After all, she had experienced this before, so she asked in confusion, is Tuta still resting? Tang Mao lied. No, she left early in the morning. It seems that something happened at home. Munigyo looked at Tang Mao with suspicion, always feeling that this guy was lying with his eyes open. However, she had no evidence. Tang Mao chose to ignore him directly and asked again, have you eaten? I have eaten. And you? I haven't eaten yet. As he said that, Tang Mao got up and walked over. Yanji and Zunu on the sofa were stunned when they heard this. They had been waiting here for the unscrupulous father to take them to a big meal early in the morning. But, after so long, he didn't move at all. When did he eat? Mu Nijio paused and immediately reacted, then stretched out her hand and said, I'm very tired today and don't want to play with you, then I'll loosen your bones for you and I will definitely make you refreshed tomorrow. Tang Mao took Mu Nijio upstairs without saying anything. Yanji looked at Zunu and asked, sister, when did we have delicious food? Zunu responded, there is no delicious food tonight, take a rest. Yanji hugged the pillow, which was fine at first, but when she heard that the food was gone, the pillow turned into ashes in an instant. Pouting her little mouth and puffing up, the little sisters downstairs are destined to have no big meal to enjoy tonight, while Tang Mao upstairs is doing her best to give Mu Nijio all kinds of massages. Although Mu Nijio has always been a warlike and possessed female devil, but the same, like Tang Yu, when the home court is not right, she is just a little lamb when encountering a big bad wolf like Tang Mao. There is no way. Although she really wants to talk about AI22, Tang Mao doesn't give her this opportunity at all tonight. It is destined to be another night of running out of ammunition and food. The next day, Tang Mao walked down with his waist. He has been a little dizzy in recent days. This waist is really worn out. Although he also wanted to be more restrained, this tender Jiao simply made him feel trapped and unable to extricate himself. Because Yanji and Zunu were waiting for delicious food last night, they rested directly on the sofa. He did not return to the contract space. Hearing Tang Mao coming down, Zunu floated over and asked Tang Mao to take her to Xianshan to see the old Zunu. Tang Mao just agreed casually before, but he didn't expect that this little girl actually took it seriously. It's not easy to return to city life. Why go to Xianshan? The city is full of lights and wine, and there are delicious food and wine, and outside the Anji, you have to eat dry food again. But the little girl looked like, if you don't go, I will hold you and go on a hunger strike. So Tang Mao didn't have any chance to refuse. The key is that there is no chance to refuse, and this girl is not that little. Holding her around his neck, eating is a problem. Helplessly, he had to agree. However, if he goes to Xianshan, Tang Mao decided to take Zhu and Snake with him. After all, it was a forbidden place for humans. Without a tool Snake, he really didn't dare to enter casually. Although the white tiger was also in Xianshan, it was obviously unreliable. And if the little white tiger was not wrong, it should still be in seclusion to receive inheritance. He was also a man of action, and he left as soon as he said he would. He first took his two daughters back to Hangzhou, and after bringing the black snake, he flew to the city near Xianshan. After entering Xianshan, the aura of the black snake suppressed the periphery, and the journey was safe and sound. However, when he arrived inside, the black snake was collected by Tang Mao inside the contract space. Although the black snake can deter some demons at the commander level here, it has no deterrent ability at the monarch level. Moreover, not only does it have no deterrent power, it can easily lead to war. Therefore, for safety reasons, the black snake was thrown into the contract space. At present, the second contract beast has not met a suitable one, so it is given a place to live for the black snake. Then, Tang Mao and Zunu rushed to the depths of Xianshan. With the induction of the snow girl and the guidance of the black snake, they took 3 days to reach the place where they met the white tiger of the Skymark last time. Although they encountered some obstacles on the way, they were just some general level and sub-commander level demons. After arriving here, Tang Mao chose to wait here. After all, to go to the place where the snow girl was, only the white tiger of the Skymark could help. Tang Mao couldn't remember, and the little snow girl couldn't remember even more. After waiting for a day, at night, the white tiger of the Skymark appeared in front of them. Sometimes Tang Mao had to sigh that the relationship with the Kilin really helped him a lot. Tang Mao looked at the Kilin jade in his hand and muttered, when I reach the super level and full cultivation, I will definitely go to Kunlun Mountain to revive you. Buzz. As if it understood what Tang Mao said, the Kilin jade trembled. After receiving the Kilin jade, the snow girl had also finished communicating with the white tiger of the Skymark. Xianhan white tiger gestured to Tang Mao and Zunu to sit on its body, and then took them to the place where Zunu was brought out. Chapter 246 Absorbing the Extreme Ice. Riding the Xianhan white tiger is obviously much cooler than riding Xiaohui. After all, the Shining White Tiger is also a demon of the Great Monarch level. Along the way, the little snow girl asked about the things on the snow mountain over there. She was forced to leave at the beginning, and because of her weak strength, she still had the most important inheritance to accept. This is why she had to go back to Shianshan. Of course, Tang Mao actually thought that the snow girl would understand it sooner or later, so he didn't care too much. The white tiger ran wildly and responded from time to time. Although he could understand what the snow girl said, Tang Mao didn't know what the Shining White Tiger was saying. Because it is still summer, it is still early for the heavy snow to close the mountain, so this journey is not peaceful. Even with the Shining White Tiger, they encountered a lot of troubles. But fortunately, this big tiger was born and raised here. They encountered sieges from some demon tribes several times, but they easily got rid of them. And because it was not a storm, Tang Mao also saw the scenery along the way this time. Even though it was summer, the snow didn't disappear at all when they reached the top of the mountain. 3 days later. To get here, they had to pass through the territory of some demon tribes, so the journey was much slower. When they arrived at the ice area left by the old snow girl, they saw a deer-like body and a bird-like head. Its body was extremely large. Even the Shining White Tiger was not as big as it. Just from feeling his breath from a distance, this strange demon was not weaker than the black snake. At this time, the Killing Jade suddenly trembled. The Killing Jade could tremble, which meant that the demon in front of them was also a totem beast. When they looked at each other, the other party was also looking at them. Feeling the pressure from the huge creature, the snow girl hid behind Tang Mao and whimpered. She seemed to be a little scared, but she seemed to have to go to the place under its feet. So, she could only choose to ask Tang Mao for help. Tang Mao summoned the Killing Jade, and after the Killing Jade appeared, the name of the demon also appeared in his mind. Totem Beast Fairy Lion. After seeing the light of the Killing Jade shining over, Fairy Lion paused, and then directly rejected it. Obviously, not all totem beasts by Killing Jade. After seeing this scene, Tang Mao directly called out the totem black snake. When the black snake appeared, Shining White Tiger was no longer panicked. If it were alone, it would not be the opponent of Fairy Lion, but with the help of the black snake, it would be fine. After watching the three behemoths stalemate here, Tang Mao took the snow girl and ran directly to the ice domain. Although the ice domain here is a restriction left by the old snow girl, the snow girl herself and Tang Mao have merged into one. So this restriction cannot prevent him from entering. The most important thing is that his own domain power has a certain restraint on the domain here. One person and one pet seemed to have no obstacles and directly entered the ice wall. When they came to the ice wall again, they saw that the immortal body of the old snow girl was still there. In other words, in the years when he left with the snow girl, it did not suffer any harassment. And the Fairy Lion who appeared here should have just arrived. The snow girl floated to the old snow girl and immediately absorbed the elemental power of the extreme cold ice here. Tang Mao, who was in sync with her, stayed aside. Ying he was originally prepared to wait, but who knew that the snow girl told him that he could also absorb it? Although Tang Mao didn't understand why he could also absorb it, he naturally didn't want to miss this kind of thing to improve his strength. Of course, if he hadn't signed a contract with the snow girl, he naturally couldn't absorb it. However, the two of them are now one, and if he absorbs and becomes stronger, the snow girl can naturally become stronger as well. Otherwise, with Tang Mao's current level, even if the snow girl absorbs the power of this field, it won't improve much. Inside, one person and one pet began to absorb the power of the extreme cold ice here, while outside Fairy Lion stared at the Shining White Tiger and the totem black snake. But neither it nor the black snake and the white tiger had the intention to fight. Although Fairy Lion rejected the Killing's induction and transmission, it did not mean that he was an enemy of the totem holy beast. It's just that after so many years, it has gotten used to freedom. It discovered this place by accident, but it didn't expect that it would encounter the already forgotten Killing and two totem beasts not long after arriving here. It naturally didn't take the low-blooded Shining White Tiger seriously. But the black snake was different. It was from the same period as Fairy Lion. The black snake looked at Fairy Lion and seemed to feel that the other party was also a totem, so it wanted to pull the other party to join them. But Fei Lan was very cold and didn't mean to respond. And at this moment, the ice area under its feet shook slightly. Fei Lan immediately left it and stayed opposite the white tiger and the black snake. Moo. Fei Lan screamed strangely, obviously a little confused about what the human who came in and the little elemental pet were doing. Hiss, the black snake responded to it. This was originally a place for people to stay, but the old generation of elemental pets had passed away, and the little snow girl was just here to absorb the elemental inheritance here. After knowing the situation, Fei Lan's hostility dissipated. Obviously, it thought Tang Mao and his men were here to grab territory. After seeing Fei Lan's lack of hostility, the white tiger and the black snake also dispersed their momentum. Inside, Tang Mao, who was absorbing the power of ice attribute, began to use it to impact the second level high level ice system after the pressure outside dissipated. He has been at the high level of ice and thunder for a while, but he has not practiced it. But in fact, it has been stable for a long time. The ice element here is extremely thick, and it is the best place to break through. After feeling the improvement of Tang Mao's ice magic power, the little snow girl also used Tang Mao's domain to fully pour the power she absorbed into Tang Mao's body. A day passed quietly like this. Under the flooding of the two forces, the ice barrier was instantly broken. The galaxy expanded again, and the whole person felt a huge change. He succeeded, and the ice system directly reached the second level high level. And at the moment when Tang Mao succeeded, the snow girl's absorption speed was also much faster. Tang Mao did not continue to compete with the snow girl. He was feeling the changes in his ice system and domain. The original domain seemed to be injected with new power. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 247 Kinua. Tang Mao sat cross-legged on the ground, evolving his new power in the spiritual space. The little snow girl was constantly absorbing the remaining power. Since Tang Mao had advanced, she, who had been oppressed for so long, was naturally eager to reach a new height. 5 days later. In 5 days, the original ice domain disappeared without a trace. Tang Mao, who had evolved the power of ice attributes, woke up on the 3rd day. When he came out, he found that Fei Lan's hostility had completely disappeared. The black snake also told him about the previous things. After knowing this, Tang Mao called out the trembling Killin again. At the moment, when the Killin phantom appeared, Fei Lan was still very respectful. But the two totem beasts didn't know what they communicated. But the final result still did not change. In fact, it is normal. Some totems need human protection when they are at their weakest, and they also protect humans. But some do not need it. They have been used to self-destruction for so many years. Wow. When the sun rose on the 5th day, the ice field had completely dissipated, and at the same time, a thick layer of ice was emanating from the ground around the snow girl. Judging from her aura, her strength seemed to have reached the level of a sub-monarch. Moreover, the snow girl at this time was no longer the little Lalita before. She had completely changed. Although she was not as queen-like as the old snow girl, she was also like a young girl. With human hands and feet, she was curvy after the promotion. The snow girl immediately returned to the contract space. Now her strength was not stable, and she needed a lot of time to rest. As for when she would wake up, it was unknown. After the snow girl absorbed the ice attribute power here, the old snow girl also turned into clouds and disappeared. Everything went well. From beginning to end, Fei Lan did not express friendship or hostility. Although Tang Mao wanted to have a few totems as his younger brothers, but he didn't by the Kirin's order, so what he was doing was obviously redundant. After collecting the black snake, he left here with Xianhun Beihu. I went to Xianshan Mountain with Zunu for half a month. I didn't expect that I could upgrade my ice system to a new level by chance. Although I have been in the high level of ice system for a long time, it normally takes at least half a year to break through. After leaving Fei Lan's new territory, Xianhun Beihu invited him to Beihu's place, but Tang Mao refused. After all, the little white tiger can't be taken away now, and there is nothing to do there. Moreover, eating dry food in the mountains every day, his mouth is almost dry. Xianhan Beihu sent Tang Mao for a while, when he was almost at the periphery, and then he returned. When Tang Mao was going down the mountain, not far away, he suddenly saw a graceful figure walking down. After looking at this figure, Tang Mao sped up a bit, and as he approached, the figure of the woman became clearer and clearer. She was wearing a goose down coat that wrapped tightly around her body. The clothes seemed a bit loose, but it couldn't cover her beautiful figure. Tang Mao was very curious about this beautiful figure of Xianshan Mountain, and he came to her in a few steps. When Tang Mao stopped in front of the woman, he paused slightly. Although the woman in front of him was not wearing good clothes, he was greedy for this beautiful face. However, it was only a moment, and he did not have any lust. After all, the other party's breath gave him a very strong feeling. The power of ice attribute. He was completely crushed. The woman saw Tang Mao suddenly appeared, and said in confusion, "It was you who saved me?" Hearing this, Tang Mao held his chin and said, "You are not Kinyu, right? Do you know me?" The woman paused, and then looked at Tang Mao with some surprise and some doubts. Tang Mao shook his head, and then said, "I don't know you, but I know you, because I know Zinkang." Zinkang? Kinyu was slightly excited when she heard what Tang Mao said, and it seemed that she saw a familiar figure on the day she broke the ice. Hearing what Tang Mao said, Kinyu was sure that the person who saved her should be Zinkang. Then, looking at Tang Mao, he said, "Did he save me? Where is he? Why didn't he see me? He can't be considered a human being now." Tang Mao told the poor girl in front of him the truth about Zinkang. After learning that Zinkang might have died, Kinyu felt a little desperate, but after hearing that he still had a trace of memory, she was very happy. After all, if there is anything in this world that is worth her nostalgia, there should be only one Zinkang left. Kinyu looked at Tang Mao and said, "Can you tell me where he is? I want to find him. Aren't you afraid that I'm lying to you?" Tang Mao couldn't help but say something about her unsuspecting character. Kinyu shook her head, and then said very honestly, "With your strength, you can't beat me. It's no good for you to lie to me." Although this is a fact and the harm is not great, why does he feel as if he has been insulted? He can easily beat the monarch level boss when he angered it, but a little super level mage is so arrogant. But Kinyu didn't mean to insult her, she just told the truth. Then she looked at Tang Mao pitifully and said, "Can you tell me where he is? I want to see him." "I'm not sure either. Where exactly is he now?" Tang Mao really didn't know where Zinkang was. After all, Xiaoyuan was constantly changing his position. Kinyu felt a little disappointed when she heard this. A warm man like Tang Mao would naturally be the most unacceptable to a girl like this, not to mention such a miserable little sister. In addition, if she didn't tell her, she would still be in trouble in the future. So she immediately said, "But I can ask for you. But I don't know whether he will see you, or whether you can still live. So, have you really thought about it?" "Yeah." Kinyu nodded without any hesitation. In this world, where can she go except Zinkang? That is the scar of Xianshan. She was originally sent down the mountain, but at the bottom of the mountain, Kinyu did not receive any enthusiasm from humans, but was as indifferent as before, which made her have no choice but to think about returning to Xianshan and waiting for the arrival of the man. But now that we know his outcome, it is obviously meaningless to continue waiting here. Therefore, as long as I can see Zinkang, everything else is not important. Chapter 248 What will happen after Zinkang dies? Tang Mao didn't know whether it was right or wrong to take Kinyu to find Zinkang, but he only knew that if he let this silly woman stay in Xianshan Scar, she would continue to be lonely and helpless. After meeting, there would be only one ending. Instead of that, it would be better to tell her where Zinkang is and let them, the ill-fated couple, get along well for a while. As for how long they can get along together, that is destined by heaven. However, he did not know the location of Xiaoyuan, so Tang Mao took Kinyu to the ancient capital. After arriving at the ancient capital, he found Hanji and asked for the location of Xiaoyuan. Hanji was a little confused about Tang Mao's appearance in the ancient capital. After all, this kid should be training in the government office now, right? After Tang Mao gave a brief explanation, he left here. he took Qinjue to the place where Xiaoyuan was. 3 days passed in this back and forth. When he arrived at the location of Xiaoyuan, Qinjue was stunned. After looking at the resentful atmosphere below, Qinjue asked with some heartache, "Is he down here?" Tang Mao nodded, and just as he was about to speak, suddenly an old acquaintance in front of him. Oh no, it can also be said that the familiar corpse of the undead mountain suddenly appeared. The moment the corpse of the mountain saw Tang Mao, he immediately recognized him. Then he roared in dissatisfaction. Although he didn't know why this kid's power became weaker, however, he knew very well that when he was in the ancient capital, it was this guy who almost beat him to pieces. Although he couldn't change to the demon system now, Tang Mao said confidently, "You are our hammer, call your boss out, his woman is here. There is no other reason. The current Zhen Kang is not completely dead, and the ancient king is just some soul awakening. The person who occupies that powerful power is Zhen Kang, but Zhen Kang's soul is the kind that is sacrificed. When will it be swallowed by the ancient king? No one knows." In fact, Tang Mao has always admired this king who made China the largest area. But at the same time, there was also some fear. Because he didn't know what this thing would do if it didn't continue to sleep and devour Zhang Kang. As soon as he appeared, he would absorb the lives of millions of people in the ancient capital. Maybe he wanted to be resurrected. Although Tang Mao felt that his death was not worth it. After all, the ancestor of the undead died in a foreign land. But if there was a day when he really threatened humans, Tang Mao thought it would be better for him to die. However, how to die was also a big problem. Tang Mao came here today more just to use Qinyu to meet him. Because he believed that with Qinyu there, the other party would not kill him. The mountain corpse saw that his deterrent power was not good, and he couldn't help but wonder. At this time, a man in black clothes and armor appeared on the top of the mountain corpse with messy long hair. "Zhang Kang, is it you?" Qinyu looked at the man who appeared, and a trace of tears appeared on his face. Hearing the woman's cry, the black armored man's emotions fluctuated violently in an instant. However, because he was an undead, he had no tears. After a moment of silence, Zhang Kang looked at the two and said, "This is not the place you should come to. You should go. Zhang Kang is dead. I can go." Tang Mao responded, and then pointed at Qinjue and said, "But do you think she can go there? Don't you think it's too selfish to do so? Since you don't want to accompany her, why save her? Do you think there is a place for her in this world?" Tang Mao felt that it would be better not to save someone like Zhen Kang. What's the point of saving him? Although he has never believed in love, Qinjue is obviously a special group. Because of her powerful ice attribute, she is not recognized and is regarded as an alien. She was lonely when she was a child, and when she grew up, she met someone she liked. The ending was so sad. Just thinking about it is enough. Hearing this, Zhang Kang turned back and looked at Tang Mao. The moment that look came over, Tang Mao felt an invisible pressure emerge instantly. It was just a glance, but Tang Mao felt that, even if he was a demon, he could not withstand the pressure of this glance. This was the greatest mage in China, Ying Zheng? Even if he had not fully awakened, Qinyu seemed to feel the pressure that Tang Mao was under, and hurriedly stood in front of him. At the same time, the power dissipated instantly. Tang Mao instantly had a civilized language in his mind. "Fuck you, dog. This is simply too much." Qinyu also said at this time, "Zhang Kang, he is right. If he hadn't brought me here, I might have been waiting for you in Xianshan. Apart from you, what else do I have to miss in this world?" Zhang Kang looked at Qinyu and didn't know what to say for a while. Perhaps breaking the ice is indeed a wrong choice. He ignored her feelings. Before he could say anything, Qinyu had already thrown herself into his arms. "You don't have to say anything, whether you are dead or alive. I don't want to leave you anymore." However, she was rejected by Zhen Kang. It was because Qinyu would die if she got close to him. At this time, Tang Mao said, "I really want to know one thing. Are you the ancient king or Zhen Kang, or do you take turns?" Zhen Kang turned his head to look at Tang Mao, and then said, "I'm Zhen Kang, but I also have the memory of the ancient king." Tang Mao paused, and then said, "I think this armor is devouring your soul all the time." Zhen Kang looked at Tang Mao with some confusion. He didn't understand how the guy in front of him knew all this. If Kinyu's affairs were learned from Kinyu when they came here, then how about his body? Seeing that he didn't say anything, Tang Mao continued, what will happen if one day your soul is completely devoured? The catastrophe of the ancient capital will reappear. Tang Mao was stunned, looking at Zhen Kang in front of him with some confusion, or the ancient king eyeing Zheng in the depths of his soul. Then, he said angrily, the land you created yourself, the oath you made, are they all bullshit? Tang Mao's roar was replaced by a long silence. Tang Mao was inexplicably panicked at this time. He was really afraid that Zhen Kang would not be able to control himself. He smashed him with the palm. After all, this casual pressure almost made him feel like he couldn't breathe. This kind of insignificance is really too annoying. After a while, he suddenly said, I need a lot of death breath to fully wake up and become the Hades. Only in this way can I truly protect China. The ancient capital is the place I chose. How could I be willing to destroy it? Hearing this, Tang Mao fell into deep thought, or he actually didn't believe this statement. But it seems that he has to believe it. After all, couldn't Xingqi's father transform into the Dark King? There is also an undead king in the Egyptian pyramids. Why don't you choose to destroy him? The ancient king shook his head. They are undead after all, and can't give me what I need. Tang Mao said again, then you can also go to harm other countries. Why do you have to choose China, which you created? Chapter 249. Old Man Bao returns. Kinyu looked at Zhen Kang in front of her, or the ancient king who was already another soul, and she understood that Zhen Kang was really gone. Her heart was in pain, and she felt very uncomfortable. The only person in the world who was sincere to her was gone. For a moment, Kinyu really wanted to be frozen forever, so that it might be better for her. Unfortunately, these were just thoughts after all. How could there be so many things in the world that were satisfactory? The ancient king occupied the body, so naturally he would not care whether Kinyu was sad or not. Of course, he also chose to protect her, because the person in the body now had a very strong will. Boy, are you saying that I should go to other countries? Tang Mao did not respond, but asked back, you are the one who unified China. After you have done something that is admired by everyone, and is the greatest thing, do you want to destroy it? The ancient king felt a little funny, and then said with a little sarcasm, it seems that you are not a savior. I'm really curious, the Kilin and the Bloluin Fire Phoenix are both holy totems. How could they choose to lend a hand to you? Tang Mao didn't care about his ridicule. I have never thought about saving the world, and the affairs of other countries have nothing to do with me. If you have the ability, go and do it. If you can't become the Hades, you will be destroyed at most. The ancient king said with disdain, humph, under the heavens, no matter whether it is a human or a monster, there is no one who can destroy me. As long as Xiao Yuan exists, he is immortal. The same is true for his 8-sided dead army. Although he did not explain, Tang Mao did not have any doubts. But unfortunately, even if I want to go out, I can't leave China with my current strength. Moreover, once I lead the army of undead to leave, I'm afraid the demons of kindling will no longer be obedient. There are too many things in the world that cannot be controlled all the time. It was like this when I was alive, let alone now. It seems that, because he discovered the Kilin in Tang Mao's body in the flame of the Bloluin Fire Phoenix he inherited, the ancient king said something rare. In this regard, he did not deny that things in the world are not always as one wishes. After a few words, Zhen Kang took over the body again. From beginning to end, Tang Mao only knew the tip of the iceberg. What will happen in the future can only be seen one step at a time. Zhen Kang finally left Kinjua here. Moreover, he told Tang Mao that, as long as he still had a trace of consciousness, he would not let the undead invade humans. When returning to Hangzhou, Tang Mao was full of puzzlement. If the ancient king really needed the lives of millions of people to sacrifice and revive, then what he did today was probably a wrong choice. After arriving in Hangzhou and sending the Black Snake back to West Lake, Tang Mao went to see Tang Yu and told her everything that had happened in the past few days. After learning about it, Tang Yu just stretched out her hand and gave Tang Mao a hug. I have also seen Instructor Zhen Kang, and now we have no choice but to trust him. Tang Mao nodded, recalling the pressure of that look, and thought to himself, strength or strength. There are not so many right and wrong in the world, and the bigger the fist, the truth. After staying with Tang Yu for half a day, Tang Mao returned to the Magic City. As soon as he came back, Tang Mao came to the Qingshan hunting house. However, Old Man Bao still hadn't returned. Only Lenking and Lingling were in the hunting house. The two sisters were really curious about Tang Mao's search for Old Man Bao. They didn't understand what kind of pie deal these two people had reached. Unfortunately, Tang Mao didn't mean to say it. Although the two sisters were very dissatisfied, they could do nothing about him. Later, Tang Mao also heard that Seren seemed to have escaped from Changming Island. Although he had some impression of this, he fainted at that time. After waking up, even if he knew it, it would be useless. As for the matter of the Inquisition, to search for the Black Church there, he had no interest in getting involved. After all, the things that Seren's men were searching were really scary. It's not that the other party is so strong, but you can't defend yourself against them. Making money is a good thing, but it's not worth it to lose your life without making money. Although he has a relationship with the demon system, some poisons can't hurt him. However, if he goes alone, it will definitely not work. After all, the guys in the Black Church are good at hiding, so he just ignored this windfall. After a while, Tang Mao left. As for how to deal with the Black Church, it was the Inquisition and some hunters to solve it. Time passed quickly. The Huaxia National Government team seemed to have finished challenging the second National Pavilion and arrived at the new trial site. They had to make some adjustments to the personnel. However, he had nothing to worry about. His status as a regular member would never be shaken. Munix's strength was also one of the best in the team, so there would be no problem. The remaining Jiang Shaoxu, a psychic mage, had an extremely powerful background, so there was no need to worry. As for Zhao Manayan, even if he could not become a regular member, he would still be a substitute. When he had nothing to do, he came to the National Pavilion to take charge. With his participation, almost no country had ever won their National Pavilion seal. Of course, there were also some powerful countries that won 3 out of 5 games. At this time, he had no choice. After all, he couldn't always rely on 1 against 3 or 4, right? While guarding the National Pavilion, he was flirting with Munijiro, and his life was happy. Moreover, after spending these days together, she is not so cold anymore. After all, they came together, and they will leave together. Of course, there is no chance for them to sleep in the same quilt. Moreover, when the two women were together, he was still sensible, and did not get too ambiguous with the other one. Munijiro was used to playing with Big Bunny occasionally. Unconsciously, the first dream, when they shared the house, had been achieved. As for giving 1 to each person, we still have to work hard. Another half a month passed unknowingly, and on this day, the long-lost Old Man Bao came back. After Tang Mao received a call from Old Man Bao, he hurried to the Qingshan hunting house. After arriving at the Qingshan hunting house, Old Man Bao took the beads, looked at Tang Mao, and then complained, "You bastard, you really caused trouble for me, an old man. I purified the evil spirit, made some transformations, and invited a friend of mine in the military." Chapter 250 British team. Tang Mao didn't take Bao Lao's complaint to heart at all. He took it directly and asked, "Bao Lao, does this mean that this bead can be loaded with energy to offset my demonic power?" "Yes." When Bao Lao was about to say something, Tang Mao had already said thank you and left. This cheap thank you made Bao Lao angry. However, Tang Mao had already run away at this time, as if he was afraid that he would ask him for money. Lenking looked at Old Man Bao, who called Tang Mao right after coming back, and hadn't even had a rest, and asked, "What exactly is that bead used for?" Tang Mao seems to care a lot about it. Old Man Bao sat there, and then said, "Tang Mao's use of demonic power is a huge loan. The real demon will soon ask him for his reward. Although he has a good treasure that can absorb solescence, there is not always so much solescence available. And the evil energy in this bead has been emptied by me and transformed into a carrier bead that stores energy. In this way, as long as the bead is full in the future, it can resist the price demanded by the demon. Lenking knew about the demon system, and now he immediately understood why Tang Mao cared so much about this bead. Lenking said randomly, "No wonder this kid didn't tell me. He was afraid that I would let him work for free." Hearing this, old man Bao Sidon said, after the incident in the ancient capital, he has become an important target of the Black Church. He is a person of his own, and the people he knows have their own protection, so there is nothing to worry about. But he is an unrestrained person, and the Black Church will definitely retaliate against him. Before he has fully grown into a supreme wizard who can stand on his own, the power of the demon system will be his greatest reliance to compete with this huge dark organization. This is why I will help him like this. Otherwise, what this kid asked me to do is enough to make him bleed heavily at once. Lenking thought for a while, and then asked again, "Is this bead really effective? And how does its power need to be filled?" Putting the condensed bead on his body, Tang Mao ran out of the Kingshan hunting house and breathed a sigh of relief. Although it is a bit dog, isn't this already commonplace? Moreover, with this bead, if I collect some power to fill it, then no matter if he is a super class wizard or a monarch father, I can kick him at will if I'm not happy with him. Moreover, the bead has been transformed, and he can return to the Guofu team. Moreover, Tang Mao thought of one thing. It seems that today is the promotion match for Munijio. Not long ago, she also reached a high level. As long as she wins a game, she can replace the players there. Stepping into the Guo pavilion, Tang Mao felt that the atmosphere seemed very wrong the moment he came in, and it seemed that everyone's face was very ugly. Guo, what happened? Why are they all so unhappy? Tang Mao paused before saying, "Did they encounter the same idiots as the Egyptians?" Munijio said unwillingly and helplessly, "They are very polite and modest. It's just that our winning streak may be over. We only need one more game to have 5 consecutive wins." Tang Mao raised his head and looked at the group of people across the arena. They were dressed very casually, and some girls even bought ancient Chinese accessories, which showed that they loved the culture of China very much. "A team from the UK." Munijio nodded and said HMM. The UK is a very powerful country. Their magic is pure and powerful, and the wind of magic has spread throughout Europe. The most prestigious magic association of the 5 continents, St. Paul's Cathedral, is in the UK. Tang Mao patted Munijio's soft shoulder and said, "It's just the UK. It's just exaggerating. Our country's strength is not weaker than this. Don't worry, I will go all out in your promotion match." The strength of this country, although not in the top 3, is at least in the top 5. But China is firmly in the top 3 in the world. Moreover, the strength of Britain is just the result of the sweetness of the previous sessions. Who is willing to take part in this challenge? Bai Dongwei glanced at the group of guards and found that more than half of them took a step back. This made Bai Dongwei angry, and he pointed at them and scolded, "A bunch of useless things. When you meet a weak one, you rush to the front, and when you meet a strong one, you shrink one by one. It is also a good experience to be able to compete with a strong team. The important thing is to participate, understand?" Tang Mao glanced at Munijio, and then looked at Bai Dongwei and said, "I will do it. How do you play? 4 against 4. Even though Bai Dongwei saw Tang Mao going out, he was not very excited. It was nothing. This was not a one-on-one match, but a small team competition. "Then are there any teams for me and Jiao? Count me in." After Tang Mao finished speaking, Dong Fanglai took the initiative to stand up, as if he was going to compete with these people. Seeing that the 3 main players here were all on the field, they were inexplicably a little excited. Tang Mao looked at everyone and said, "Come on, let's have another defensive or full dump player." After hearing what Tang Mao said, Li Kuan came out and said, "Then I'll do it." The 4 candidates were also finalized. When they were about to step into the arena, 3 people appeared at the entrance of the National Pavilion. They were all older. Bai Dongwei was a little surprised. He didn't expect that several great mentors would come to the National Pavilion in person. He was flattered. But when he thought about it, Bai Dongwei's face immediately turned black. Several great mentors didn't come when they were winning streaks before, but today they happened to come to inspect when they saw the powerful British. This made Bai Dongwei's smile disappear all of a sudden. no matter who the other party is. In short, if the students of their own country are abused, the mentors will not be happy. If they are not happy, they, the instructors of the National Pavilion, will probably be criticized. Tang Mao also saw 3 people, 2 of whom were mentors of the national government. He is also a member of the national government. How could he not know him? As for the other one, he was not familiar with him. But it doesn't matter whether these people are familiar or not. If Mo Fan can beat the team, there is almost no reason why he can't beat it. Bai Dongwei didn't care about anything and hurried forward to greet the instructor. He silently complained in his heart, it's really bad luck. In his opinion, there is almost no advantage in this competition. The instructors are Feng Li and Song He, as well as the vice president of the Pearl Mage Tower. Behind the 3 of them, there seem to be a few younger mages, mostly their juniors, 2 women and 1 man. Feng Li has thick eyebrows and beards, and the whole person has an oppressive BGM aura. He stared at Bai Dongwei and seemed to be dissatisfied with this instructor. He snorted coldly and walked straight to the spectator seat. Bai Dongwei almost didn't dare to breathe and followed behind happily, without the look of shouting at the students in the past. Song He looked at Tang Mao in the field, then looked at Feng Li puzzledly and said, Feng Li, this kid has been on leave for so long, is it your arrangement? Although Tang Mao was not in the Guofu team, he did not give up his position as a regular player. Song He was quite curious about this. He thought he was going on some mission. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.